Thanks for that great countdown, Sam. Yes, it is another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host, Richard Lewis, working through a hangover today. I'm not going to lie about it. I had a big booze shipment come in. I haven't drank in 2 weeks. I thought I'll just fucking have a few quiet drinks before bed. Polished off pretty much a bottle of scotch. Bit of a sore head today, Duncan.
You doing anything cool while you're doing it, though?
Nah, just sadness. Just pure loneliness and sadness.
Mostly. I was watching a
full whiskey dick myself. I couldn't even jerk off, mate. I don't even have that anymore. Don't even have that anymore.
Mate, that is a sad time in your life, isn't it? When you're at rock bottom and you can't even do that, mate.
Just can't even thumb in my winky, like trying to rub some life into it, you know? Can't.
What's that joke that I think it was like Joy Diaz or something where he's like, he's like punching that motherfucker, like, wake up, motherfucker.
Yeah. I think he says, you sellotape 2 pop sticks to that motherfucker and you go in there like a wounded soldier. You still go in there.
Yeah, so listen, and it's a slow news week anyway. That was another thing I knew sort of subconsciously. There weren't going to be much to fucking talk about. There's been a few like shitty little Counter-Strike roster changes, which we'll get into. But I'm just going to talk about a general topic that seems to be affecting your life first and foremost, because I haven't said nothing about it. But before we get into that, right, before we do get into that,
which, by the way, spoiler, is going to be one of the most ridiculously indulgent segments because it's not even about CSGO.
Give a fuck.
But yeah, no, we can do that. We can just do that.
Think about what you're saying as well, right? Like, if we can't indulge ourselves on our own fucking podcast, when you've got fucking bitches be out there going on like podcasts that shouldn't even exist. Hi, and welcome to Moroncast, where I tell you vacuous things. Like, this is what the fuck is this? Like, you know, every cunt's got a fucking podcast now, and you haven't even got 2 fucking brain cells to rub together or an opinion worth hearing. Brilliant. We'll get into it. I told you I'm ready. Like, the hangover is fueling. No, 100%. Like, be prepared. So anyway, obviously shout out to the sponsor .com. That's with 9e's.com, because YouTube have decided I'm not allowed to have a gambling sponsor, but everyone else is apparently, especially poker players and whatnot. Do support them. They're fucking great. If you go over right now, I think they'll match deposits of up to $100. So go across .com/RLS. That's a referral code. Lets them know that you come from this show. And today we released our interview with Stunner. That I did, and I think it'll be a bit of a surprise to some people. We sat down, we had a beer, we were talking about some pretty deep shit, because a lot of people don't know that you know, Stunner wasn't just like, you know, a booty judge type military dude. He saw active combat in Afghanistan, and I got a lot of time for people who've been in the armed forces or come from a military family myself. So we get into that and we talk about that, and we also tell the story about how we met and nearly came to blows instantly. Just 2 big alphas silverbacking each other.
Similar story between me and him as well, to be fair.
You know? Yeah, no, I was going to say.
To be fair though, you have to understand, I know now he was just stressed at that period in his life.
Yeah,
I think he was just interacting with a lot of people in that scenario like that, you know, because obviously, listen, if you're going to be on the edge and you might get into a ruckus with someone, we're probably on the short list for a lot of people. We're in the top 5.
Oh, of course. Right? Of course. No, but it's like I've always said with like most people that I actually end up sort of warming to in esports, it always starts bad. It never starts good. And we never get off on the right foot because I've got opinions, they've got opinions usually. And sometimes it's impossible for opinionated people to always hold the same indelible opinions and values at all times. So you find yourself clashing. And I'm a passionate and vociferous defender of my opinions. I believe my opinions are the correct opinions to hold. I don't mind saying it. It's not that I'm not open to other people's opinions. It's just that when I've, come to my own conclusions, I believe that is the righteous path. So, people like Scott, Scoots, me and him, we were at each other's throats when we first met, you and me, famously. I said some outrageous shit to you. And you said some outrageous shit to me, but not as outrageous. I'm a one-upsman kind of guy. I like to go to fucking DEFCON 1 or whichever the biggest DEFCON is. I always get mixed up. Yeah, good. I go there generally at the start. But, Stunner was no different. This was a guy who, like, obviously when you've lived a life, when you've been in the military and stuff, you come into esports, what, you're going to get mugged off by a bunch of fucking nerds? Obviously not, right? So, and that's how I kind of feel about it sometimes. So when we collided in that instance, yeah, it was a bit fucking scary. But then I realized very quickly, like, they're the kind of people that you don't see very often in esports. People who've had a life outside of it, people from working class backgrounds, people from the military. And these people are sort of to be cherished and treasured because generally they're the ones that actually have the different perspective and bring something new to the space, right? I mean, So we mended that fence very quickly.
You know,
and he's
though,
been
what
a
you
good
say
friend
there
ever
as
since.
well, because the other thing is as well, when two people like that clash heads, you can also then recognize, like, oh, well, at least this guy's real. Like, even if I disliked him or he's fucked with me, like, he was willing to stand up on his shit though. He didn't back down or whatever. Because there's one thing.
Oh no, and you got to respect that.
The way you
and the
know
thing
in
is as well, I
esports-
mean, even though I was like in much better nick then, I'm too old for scrapping now. But you know, he
No,
would have
it's not
fucking
about
probably
that.
killed me with
First
his
10
hands.
seconds,
Like,
wasn't
of
it?
course
Just
he
to-
would. He's a trained killer. You know
That's
what I
the
mean?
thing, though. The way you know, even to this day, most people in esports are just like fucking middle class kids who had a nice PC and the opportunity to just play on the weekends and maybe even go to LANs with their family before they ever had to commit to anything, never had any hardship in their life. Is the amount of them who actually still are shocked that when they essentially do like the shout of the movie where they're like right up in someone's face or trying to intimidate them and then find out that like, oh, that person actually isn't just going to let themselves get punked. It's like, what world have you been living in for the last fucking 20 years where you're just learning that now? Like, what?
I know. It must be nice. That's what I mean. I think, you know, I almost envy it. I envy the naivete.
I know.
Right? You know, like,
When they're like doing the
obviously
hold him back, bro, it's like, no, don't hold him back. Send him in.
no.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, because like obviously, you know, I'm from a neighborhood where you know, literally you're fighting for scraps and people are gonna take food off your fucking table, like legit. So yeah, I mean that's why
the washing line.
yeah. No, I've had that as well. I've had my clothes robbed.
I've seen people
you know,
steal other people's shoes, but that does happen.
Yeah. The old
I always
classic.
think about that. Come on, man. Do you know what size those
Yeah,
are?
I know,
Like, if you end up throwing these away, you are a cunt. Like if you just stole my shoes and then you're like, I'm not even sure. I won't say the size just because there's weird cunts out there. I'm not that size. Just throw them in the bin. Like, so now I just don't have any shoes and you don't have mine. They're like, what's the point in this?
Yeah, no, I like how you had to fucking
I just thought
not say what size you are in case fucking
foot
people are into
fetishes.
foot fetishes and
I
stuff.
know.
Oh, you're a big size 11, daddy.
Exactly. Like, whatever it is, some weird cunt out there will get it done, won't he?
Yeah, we call him Dust. Anyway,
I'm sure you still have the chat went out after that.
right. So let's just talk about your life.
The eternal
Duncan.
whipping boy. In this fucking show.
No, I love him. Obviously, I love him daily. Like I love him daily.
Gaelic.
We have whipped
So
him
makes it
into
fun,
shape
yeah.
as well. Let's be real about it. We've
Yeah,
whipped him into
exactly.
shape. He's become a
We
man.
made him
now.
wear tougher.
Yeah, he's gone through
Yeah,
the gauntlet,
yeah.
mate. He's
Not
come
that
out
was
better,
ever what he needed, really.
No, not
He'd had-
really. We just decided
Yeah,
that.
he's like us. He'd had a horrendously tough life. He didn't need toughening up at all, in fact.
No.
Thinking about it. But we did it anyway. We battered him into submission and we've made him a man. So pretty happy with the way that went. Great experiment. Anyway. Right, let's talk about your life, Duncan. Your favorite topic. Self-indulgent podcast central. You've been going to war with TSM for some reason.
Rerunning that old storyline. Bringing it back.
Yeah, of course.
half a decade
It's
ago.
2014 again. We're back all up in this motherfucker. Now, listen, I sort of stayed out of it because there was a lot of people who came on the stream when the story about, and if you don't follow League of Legends, I'll just give you the sort of scoop, Betty Boop. Double Lift, very popular North American player, you know, probably the best mechanical AD carry, you know, natively to America. And he's been on, he was on Team Liquid, he's been on TSM in the past. He's sort of become a bit, you know, estranged. He goes to these big teams and then they don't quite live up to expectations and then he looks to move on, kind of like, you know, Kane in Kung Fu. He's just wandering the earth looking for the world to win. But anyway, he's joined TSM and it sort of transpired. It's come out that the president of TSM, Lena, who is the ex-partner of Reginald, the owner of TSM, is dating Double Lift. And a lot of people came into the channel the day it was happening going, oh, you must have something to say about this. You're Mr. Conflict of Interest. And I went, listen, he went through a horrendous tragedy, probably the worst thing I can imagine happening to anybody. And so I said, I'm not really interested in if people want to have that opinion and express the opinion, they can do it, but I'm not going to do it because I want him to be happy and I want him to find happiness and he deserves it. He deserves happiness. I can see already Duncan's like, this concept is alien to me. Like, why
No,
wouldn't
what's
you?
alien to me is like, well, okay, then let's play a little game. How
let's
far
do
could it go before you'd called something out? Like, is he allowed to like cheat on his taxes? Is he allowed to basically like fuck a person up? Is he allowed to match fix Richard?
It's a good question, mate. It's a good question because I think I am a bit soft in that regard. When I know people are having hard times, I have a tendency not to be the one that sticks in the additional boot. You know, if you see God stamping on someone with his fucking hobnails, I don't, you know, I try not to do it. And I guess what sort of made me a bit more adverse is the eye by power stuff. I have to look steel in the eyes all the time, and it hurts a lot. So I thought, fuck it, I'm not gonna say nothing about it. I'm just not gonna. But you're right. I mean, what's true is true, and that is immutable. It cannot be. So I wasn't going to say anything, but then I saw what they've been sort of doing, which is they've been going on this big sort of weird PR offensive to try and justify something that is inarguably a conflict of interest. I can't even believe we're having a conversation about it, frankly. So just to put this out there before we get into it, you can give your sort of summary for the audience that maybe haven't followed this story. It's inarguable that if you're having sex with your employees, it is a conflict of interest. It's just not up for debate. It doesn't matter who investigated what. It doesn't matter how often you're doing it. It doesn't matter when you started doing it. It doesn't matter what team they were on prior to it. All of this is irrelevant. It's all window dressing. The reality is most workplaces will preclude you from having sex with your subordinates for a variety of reasons, both ethical, practical, financial. It is a conflict of interest. And what I found quite amazing about this story is that people are going, oh, but it's not as big a conflict of interest as this, or it would be a much bigger conflict of interest if he was on Team Liquid still and was doing it. Right? And it's like, listen, guys, it's a binary thing. Is it a conflict of interest? Yes or no? The answer is yes. What the fuck are we talking about? So basically, what I couldn't believe was like, just let it slide. Like,
exactly.
This is a story you kill with silence.
Take a tiny L and just let it go.
Yeah, you kill it with silence because, frankly, it's a little bit embarrassing. It's personal, isn't it? It's your personal life. Yeah, and when you factor in the whole Reginald aspect to it, obviously still the owner of TSM, still associated with TSM, it's embarrassing for him. If you have any feelings towards that person still, obviously not relationship wise, but just affable, you work together, you share a big part of your life together, just let it fucking slide. So when I saw we're gonna go on the Pokimane podcast and fucking try and style this out, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It's got to be one of the most ill-advised PR moves, and clearly as well just massively cynical. Which podcast has the most eyeballs? It's not like you're getting a rigorous grilling. It's not like you're being asked intelligent or insightful questions. It's 300,000 people will see this YouTube VOD, so I'm going to go on there and see and lie, essentially. So, I mean, yeah, obviously, I can't believe this is happening, and I can't believe anybody, even fans, would sort of stand in line with that to say, I'm okay with it.
Oh, it's better than that, Richard.
Yeah,
they're not only okay with it, most of them to this day dispute that there is a conflict of interest. By the way, the only 100% indisputable fact in the entire case, but also because, as she did on that podcast, she made it span it as though the whole reason I'm doing this is because she's a woman and she has it's hard as a woman in esports, and she has this relationship. And why won't people just leave her alone with this incredibly public relationship with a fucking employee, superstar player that she just brought to her team? Because, why would any of that be news or something people talk about? And so as a result, it's now also been spun that I'm the cunt. I'm the one who's going super hard and abusing a woman who, by the way, is literally calling into question my entire livelihood.
Yeah, I saw the whole fake news tweet as well, which frankly is embarrassing.
Why would you do that in this political climate, for fuck's sake?
I know. Think about who you're accidentally aligning yourself with when you use that phrase.
You're also essentially, by the way, telling YouTube, censor me. Censor me. Yeah. You're supposed to censor fake news.
Yeah, I think as well, like one of the things that I always loathe, and I've, my personal nemesis for a good few years was Team Liquid, and Steve Arnset is a guy that has gone after journalists repeatedly. He's another guy with like a ton of fucking skeletons in the closet about how they've like dealt with players and handled players in the past. But me, I'm like I say, I'm a kind of guy where it's like, it doesn't always need to be war. There is a time for peace and there is a time for war. And I'll sit down and I'll break bread with you. And I've tried doing it with these people, but they all do the same thing. When there is an opportunity to sit down and say, oh, we should have a relationship, we should work this out, when they think they're going to be able to manipulate you to become essentially their PR wing, very friendly, very affable. They'll give you money, they'll give you treats, they'll do anything they can. They might even pay for you to go to Hawaii and sit in the jacuzzi if you're that way inclined. Hey, Travis. But the reality is
I mean, the two sinister lines that are always invoked, and as soon as these are invoked, I'm out. But to normal people, they don't see it this way. They either say, how do we make this go away? Which is like, you're saying shit out of fucking movies that like the bad guy who's in the big corporation says to kill someone. And then the other one is they just say, oh, they spin it this way and they go, we shouldn't be fighting, you and I. You know, we're in this industry. How can we bring ourselves together? It's like, well, you could stop being fucking outrageous about a bunch of stuff. It's like, nah, I mean, how can you ever thought about that? Kind of what I want you to do.
Yeah. So that happens a lot, and I like Team Liquid did it to me for years, where every story I published relating to Team Liquid, they would publicly deny, would always be true. They did it with the Hiko move, they've done it with, you know, just a ton of stuff down the years, you just sort of get to a point where you're like, well, how many more chances am I going to give you? And what's crazy about this is that with TSM in particular, I mean, the idea that you've been some sort of like arch nemesis to TSM is ridiculous, because I think in general, while you've rightly mocked the fan base, which they were the original esports morons, you know, like what can be said about a fucking group of fans that have one chant, it's the name of the team, which is 3 letters, and they occasionally get it wrong. They're morons.
And by the way, I'll even, because then everyone's going to think on our show, what about the Brazilians? They're at least speaking in a fucking second language, reading in a second language, and in a totally different culture. These people are from our fucking culture, and they're the biggest arseholes ever.
Yeah. So, but what people seem to forget is that during the Sean Gares, Reginald, PEA sort of fucked up 3-way, you were the guy in CS that sort of gave a platform to Reginald, gave a platform to TSM side of the story, and basically Sean ended up holding an L that personally to this day I don't think he should have ever been holding. I think there's I
think both sides took L's on that one personally. It's just that again, fans have to decide one person wins, even though it's like both people lose on this.
True. But I think with you know, Sean was like up until that point completely beloved by the community.
No, golden boy.
It was the first time he'd ever sort of took any negative PR and negative hits. And as I've said, I think if that full story ever come out, for me, knowing what I know about it, and I think me and you sort of know different things and have seen different things, for me it was inarguable that TSM were in the wrong there. But you know, you gave them the platform to put their side of the story across. So that's an example there of hostilities being amended for you on principle to get their side out there. It's like what I did recently with ESL, with the whole Flashpoint ESL debacle and the Lanxess agreement and all that shit. I said, listen, come on by the numbers. I won't even have Duncan there because he'll shred you, and we'll do an interview. It's absolutely wild to me that this is as far as it's going. And do you want to know what? Like, I gotta just say it. I do get sick and tired of like how many times can you play the card if you can I criticize a woman anymore? Is that like a woman in a senior position? I don't want to like go on to the whole like anti-feminist or woe is me, don't men have it hard nonsense, because I don't believe that for a second. But you know,
I don't even think that's what this is, by the way. I actually think it's just like I don't think like that's her philosophy, the little I know about her. I think it's just an example of like, fuck, I'm painted into a corner, there's nothing else, what is there? And then you look down, wait a minute, there's this little get out of jail free card. No, I shouldn't, because it's not really what I believe in. Fucking and you know what? As a woman, I actually have built myself up in esports, and I didn't even come up at that point in time, and I did it through my company, and I become a president. But you know what? It would get me out of jail free though. And the temptation's just there. It's like it's
an easy way as well. You know? Yeah, it's an easy way as well to completely like reframe the discussion.
You know, right? That's also the other thing. They haven't even battled me on the ideas. If they want to go head to head with the ideas, no, all they do is just deflect. So it's like literally me saying, like, you literally haven't paid your taxes in 2 years, and you go, I think you're probably a paedophile. And everyone goes, what the fuck is he? That's like what it's like. It's like, so now I have to defend against something I'm not, rather than the entire scenario was what you did.
Yeah. No, but that's what I mean. That's why you do it. It completely reframes the argument. And then people go through and dredge up your history and go, oh, yes, Duncan has always famously hated women. And they, you know, it's like such an absurd situation for what is essentially that, like, for me, I think if you like the way this just goes away and you just resolve it once it's public, is you just say, yes, it is inappropriate, but we are in a living relationship. However, to prevent any potential conflicts in the future, I'm going to step down from the operational side of the League of Legends team. That's it. That's all
Here's
you
the
do.
craziest thing about that, by the way. The reason why already idiots are going to be like, but why should she give her job? Wait a minute, I thought this was about love. I thought this was about an important thing that was so important that you would literally put the integrity of the whole league of 2 teams and then of your own team and numerous people working in your team at stake. If it's that high a stakes, you know what? God bless you. Go and have a great relationship. So for a couple of years, while he's playing as a player in the league, you're going to have to recuse yourself. That's the only reasonable thing to do. Or take a job that's just so out of place, you could never have any influence. Because here's another thing, right, that I never brought up. Exactly because, actually, playing into what you said before about the personal side of Doublelift, I haven't made Doublelift part of the story. This is all about Lena's actions. And actually, the reason why it's now about her is because she's formed a personal vendetta against me and smeared me in the media. The whole point of bringing it up was never, I haven't even personally said that I think the trade should have been stopped. That was Monty's take. I just wanted to bring it up as an example of how utterly bullshit the poaching rules are, so that when they then turn around and slap some poor bastard on the wrist who just slightly trips over and has something leaked, and everyone goes, how dare you poach? No one else in the league. It's like every motherfucker does it in this league. Do you want me to give you the straight fire dime as to how everyone poaches in LCS and everyone gets away with it? It's this. All you need to do to poach and break the rules is contact the player, right? As soon as you let him know before you talk to his org, you're interested, that is a violation, because in fact, that is even where poaching rules, which the Europeans are like, that's just a stupid American sports thing. This is where they veer into like legal areas, because then you are tampering with a contract. I think it's called tortious interference.
Tortious interference.
So when this happens, one of the things essentially is I can't come to you under certain contracts. I actually had some of these contracts at some of these websites I worked for in the past. I can't come to you if you start working there as well and say, by the way, I'm leaving in a month to this fucking sick site. So if I were you, I'd leave as well, because that's actually in my contract. Says I can't do that. So essentially, right, what you do instead, because if people haven't followed it, if you told the player, I'm interested in signing you for loads of money, well, then it's a different deal when you go to his team. Now his team doesn't have the same option to negotiate. And you've put the leverage against his own team. But here's the point I never made, because the most obvious conflict of interest is the one you went straight to. I just picked all the other ones that were like around the scene and around other people. The most obvious conflict of interest is because you are dating your boss, there is now a conflict of interest in how your boss will even treat you. She may not fire you, or she may fire you if you then get into a scenario in the relationship. That should never even be on the table. Forget like what happens to your teammates and then the other ones that I mentioned. So yeah, the ridiculous thing to me was this should never even have been what it is now. They're the ones who pushed it to become the stupid drama. It should have just been a small story about a conflict of interest, which should have sparked a discussion about, should Riot just say, let fair's fair and everyone can poach? Should we just live in this world? Oh, I forgot to mention the thing that you do, by the way. I forgot to mention the secret. The secret that you do is, instead of just contacting the player, you just follow him on Twitter. And as soon as he sees you follow him on Twitter, in his brain, he's going to think, why is this my daughter following me on Twitter? He might even go to his team. Is there a reason they're following me on Twitter? That's all you need. You've done it right there. Do you think it's illegal to follow people on Twitter? It never could be. That's why the rules are unenforceable. Hence why I just want to get rid of the rules, because I've seen people get wrecked who just did a worse version of that, while the same people pushing for them to get wrecked, the Three Kings, were the fuckers doing it the whole time themselves. They're just better at it.
Yeah, well, listen, I was going to bring that up because it's not just the Three Kings in NA, obviously. I mean, the stuff I've seen, G2 players are out there, like, straight, talking to other players, and it'd be great if you could play with us, I'm pretty sure. And, like, listen, I love Carlos to bits. He's always denied it. He has to deny it, doesn't he? He has to. He has to say, I've never seen anything. I've seen bona fide Skype conversations in multiple examples of players that went on to play for G2, where and I know specific times and dates and events where they were meeting with each other. And listen, it's fine. I think the rules are stupid and should be removed because they're essentially unenforceable, and all you actually do by having them in place is create a sort of two-tier system where some people get away with it and others don't. And
To
generally,
me, I think it's dirtier than that. I actually feel like it's an example of where regulations in an industry are designed in cooperation with the biggest people in the industry to fuck the smaller people. So to me, the point of those rules, and this is why Lena is so fucking dense. She has no game plan. There is no chess game here. She's literally just going, no, you're it. And I'm like, that's her level of gameplay, right? Because here's the maddest thing about it. When she pushed me, you know how this works. You push a journalist, especially if they're an ethical one, I'll just wreck you with ethical means. So what I did was I went out there, and because she heavily implied, as Riot Games did, in totally disingenuously, that because they'd performed this exhaustive, intense, intimate investigation, well, that must mean they investigated the conflict of interest in the personal relationship. No, I got the motherfucking confidential capital letters .pdf document, which they did after they're summarizing their investigation and sent to all the teams in the league to explain what happened, in which they explicitly state they never considered the relationship because they think that's a matter for the teams, completely or 180 from what they were trying to essentially imply publicly. So that would never even have come out if this stupid fuck hadn't have pushed me.
Yeah, it's just absurd because, I mean, like, what amount of investigating can sort of exonerate? Unless you're abstaining, unless you're like not fucking each other and it's all a ruse, then what's there to talk about? I mean, it's also as well, though. I mean, if I was the owner, like, this is what I mean. This isn't about even a riot. This isn't even a riot issue, in my opinion. I don't think Riot should be sort of investigating who people have sex with. They're a fucking creepy weirdo company at the best of times. Let's have less in investigations into who's fucking who. By the way, if you ever want to turn over the fucking stones of who's having sex with who in esports,
real, wouldn't it?
Mate, don't even, like,
by the way,
the things that will come slithering out from under that rock will fucking doom the industry forever.
Even though I don't want to say this in as much as, like, I'm not literally making this sound virtuous, because it's just like literally saying, like, well, I don't even kick homeless people when no one's looking. But, like, if people actually think I have some insane personal vendetta where I'd do anything to fuck people over, I literally know people, this is no exaggeration, who have talked mad shit on me, who I know the STDs they have and who they caught them from. I could fuck these guys' lives like that, and I've never, ever, ever leaked a single thing to anyone.
No, because it's off limits, that shit.
It's
right?
done.
It's like,
yeah, that's their life.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, totally. I mean, like, that is a rock. Leave that rock where it is. So the fact that this is like public knowledge, I think, is sort of embarrassing enough. But if I was Reginald, I'd have been like, listen, Lena, like, you know, it's not about us being exes or whatever. It's just, you know, I need you to take a step back from the League of Legends team. It's bad optics. It's bad optics for my company that I own, by the way, and you are an employee of. And, you know, even if she's a co-owner, that's, you know, it's still, he's the majority shareholder, the CEO, the guy who dictates everything that goes on. It's terrible optics. And that's just all you do. You just quietly take a step back and you just go, yeah, you know what? Honestly, this probably is a little bit inappropriate. And let me tell you, from a company perspective, you are potentially insulating yourself from a lawsuit. Let's say, for example, right, Double Lift and Lena have an acrimonious breakup. Right?
Can happen to anyone, yeah.
Can happen to anyone. Esports relationships, stress, you know, whatever. And now you are employed by, and then she says, out of spite, I'm going to drop you from the team. Now, that might be because he's playing bad. That might be because she's pissed off that they've broke up. You know, anything can happen. Maybe he likes to sling dick. Maybe he cheats on her. You know, these situations that can come up in the fucking future. Then he gets dropped. Well, now it's his livelihood. So now he's got probable cause for a lawsuit. Why the fuck would you want to put yourself in this position?
Yeah, why even allow it to potentially... By the way, I can already tell you, I'll just give you a spoiler, but it won't stop anything because of what these people are like. By even saying what you just said, TSM fans will now say that you said that she will probably break up with him and then fire him, and then that, you know, maybe...
I hope they have a long...
say it as a fact.
I hope they have a long relationship, and I hope they're very happy. And the reason I never talked about it until now is because I do put a premium on Peter's happiness. I think he's due some. I think, you know, cosmically, I think he's been given a pretty raw fucking deal.
Course.
And, you know, when you realize there is no karma, there is no comeback, terrible things just happen to good people every fucking day. When you see somebody have a little enclave of happiness, you want them to go for it. So I'm not saying, I hope they get married, have fucking children, live in a fairy fucking castle. Like I'm down for that. But it won't change the fact that it's a massive conflict of interest and a potential headache for the company should anything go wrong in the relationship. I mean, I can't even believe we're arguing about that. And put it this way, let's just scale it back for a minute. Imagine, right? Like if it came out that, I don't know, this is an outrageous example, but let's just say, I'll just do it, fuck it. Let's just say it came out that Nicola Nyholm was having sex with ESL.
It's a bit hypothetical, guys.
It's hypothetical, of course it is. It's a mad hypothetical, but let's say it came out.
Because ESL, you could do better, mate.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Right, but like, let's say it came out, right? And he's just been brought into Astralis, a functional team as a sixth, right? There would be outrage about this. There would be absolute outrage. You would be saying, well, obviously the only reason he's gone to Astralis is because of this sexual relationship that's there. And the owner seems content to dismantle the team and give a salary to someone that they're having sex with. This is highly unethical. No one would think twice about calling that unethical. Now, I do want to stress that it's hypothetical. This isn't my way of sneaking in some news. But the fact that we're all laughing about that, and we see it as an absurd example, that is exactly what's going on here, by the way. So if you can perceive that to be a massive conflict of interest, the fact that Doublelift is a good enough player to play for TSM is neither here nor there in the argument or the discussion.
That's actually how we essentially got into this mess in the first place.
What clearly precipitated this move is the relationship, the end, and the fact that the relationship is ongoing while he's on a team. It shows how fucking small esports is at times, that a huge $1 million company like TSM will leverage all these pathetic PR tactics, and clout searching like they're fucking FaZe or something, just another dog shit organization that doesn't understand what professionalism looks like. They will do to hide something that, when you just put it out in the cold light of day, it is inarguably a conflict of interest. It cannot be expressed any other way. And when I saw that fucking clip where Pokemon went, but it would be worse if you were on another team. How can it be conflict of interest in workplace? It's like, come on, man, for fuck's sake. This is it's ridiculous. Listen to the words.
I can't believe that's like a real person.
I know. How can it be conflict of interest that you have sex with employee? I cannot. This is nonsense. It's absolute gibberish. And the idea that you're going to stand there and go, yeah, that's actually a really good salient point. I'd never thought of that. Thanks. Did you get a fucking script prior to the podcast? Probably.
Also, again, another thing that a child would attempt to use as a strategy is to go, well, you could have said all this 2 months ago, but now you bring it up. It's like, what's the relevance of that? What's the relevance of that? I'm sorry, was there am I only allowed a 24-hour grace period where I'm allowed to bring shit up that you do wrong? And it's like, well, got through the 48 hours. Now I'm safe. It's like, no, guess what? In the same way you can do about me for years later, you can do it as long as you want.
Understand, I got nothing against Pokemon neither, because it's one of the things that I've learned is you're closer to these people when you exist in this space than you actually think. And it was the way I used to dunk on Ninja, and then when we talked about things, it's actually I'm being a bit unreasonable. I'm doing it because he's a big target, and I'm engaging in that negative clout-seeking behavior, just the inverse, right? Instead of seeking praise from a big audience or doing a collab or whatever, you attack the big name, knowing that all the people that hate them, their haters will gravitate towards you. It's pathetic. It's behavior I'm trying not to engage in. But an intellect, she certainly did not come across in that podcast as. And equally as well, the whole incident just reeked of let's just quickly muddle through the bad part and then arrive at the defense of the bad thing that you've done, and then we'll talk about God, isn't this monster?
What reality show would you make if you could do it?
Yeah.
The maddest thing about all that, this is why I say not a thinker. right? If you're going to have that discussion and you're going to get everyone's opinion on on whether it's a conflict of interest or not, or in which way, how bad it is, the first thing you'd all do is define what a conflict of interest is. Because you know what? After this experience, right, I initially just thought they were just stupid. I actually genuinely think they don't know what a conflict of interest is. That would, you know, if I was ever put into a court scenario, the first thing I would do is just spin it and go, you tell me what a conflict of interest is. Because as far as I can tell, there isn't such a thing. That's that can be the only conclusion based on what they're saying. There's no such thing as one.
Yeah, well, no, that's the only place you have to exist in, or what you're saying. So listen, I think it's one of those, it's become a saga, and it's become sort of very tawdry. And I just wish organization, like, nothing that has been expressed about this issue is untrue. Nothing. It's all factual. It's all out there. What they're trying to do is ascribe motivations to it after the fact to try and deflect from, you know, Thorin's a liar. That's more unethical than what I'm doing. But what's he lying about? Well, those Discord chat logs he used in his video.
I bet that blew your mind.
I didn't mean
when you saw what that said, and then what she claimed she obviously meant. It was, I thought literally, like, dude, I'm in like some like fucking totalitarian regime now where like they're going to make me say 2 and 2 is 5 after this. Like, what's going on? Like, essentially, she literally said, like, I don't know if this is exactly word for word, but the gist was, like, I approached lots of European players. When I then say in a video, like, what are you saying? You know, that implies that you've poached these players by approaching them. She then later goes, well, I haven't approached any pro players, have I? It's like, oh, that's my fault, is it? Go on then, tell me why that's my fault.
No, but this is the other thing. How can somebody that doesn't grasp that actions matter from a perceptions perspective, and in general, how can they also understand that specific wording matters? You know, they're not there yet. They're not there yet. They don't understand that actually it's not enough when you're in a position of authority and you're operating within a very set of fixed parameters because you're in a league and poaching is a big hot topic and there are penalties for it. The words that you use obviously carry incredible weight, because the difference between I talked to their organization and I talked to the player is huge within the context of those rules. It doesn't matter what you meant.
Even though obviously there'd be a lot more to the case. If this was an actual case where it went to court for tortious interference, that would be considered banging circumstantial evidence. That fucking chat log there. By the way, I thought one thing you might appreciate, we haven't brought it up, it's a very side detail. Probably the stupidest tactic. This actually shows the level of contempt TSM have for their own fans. That they not only knew you idiots would eat this shit up, but afterwards you'd go, can I have more, please? Is when they decided the way to prove I'm lying that double lift was poached, something I never ever claimed. If I explicitly, before I said it as a hypothetical, said it's something I did not claim to have happened. But you ready? The way they proved it didn't happen is because in the Skype log, she's talking about getting a player called Upset, like I think it's 2 years ago. She has the person who's the managing director of Upset's team at the time, not anymore,
Schalke, right?
Come out and say, well, as far as I know, it never happened, which, by the way, is irrelevant completely on all levels, proves nothing whatsoever. And this is the maddest detail, right? Everyone else, they just took that at face value and then attacked me on these grounds. No one else except people in CS, and basically only me and you, because people in CS won't know this either, picked up on this detail. Dude, this is when I knew it was a simulation. Like the writing, the algorithm that creates the storylines, like it isn't supposed to go this deep. So when you go this deep into it, it just throws up like it recycles a bunch of stuff from the past and generates a new storyline. So you won't even believe this. I had to sit there and have people essentially straight-faced tell me, well, if a member of the Reykjavik family says that no conflict of interest took place, how could it have Thorin? And I was just out there like, do I even have to? Do I really even have to?
Yeah,
I guess I do then. Right.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, nothing.
I couldn't believe that when I saw the name.
Reykjavik, like, synonymous with integrity and honesty.
I was praying. I hope it's just a really common name in Germany. I hope it's just someone else. And I thought, it's him. Of course it's him. Of course.
Yeah. No, but I mean, that was a mad one, because think about it this way, right? So somewhat, right? Thorin is having sex with my wife, right? Now, another hypothetical. You'll notice it's a lot cooler than the S attack one, but you know, that's just So you have to placate Thorin's mad ego. So Thorin's having sex with my wife. I don't know about it. And then somebody publicly comes out and goes, Thorin's fucking Richard's wife, you know. I saw him. I was actually at a dogging hotspot, and Thorin was railing her in the back of a car while there was a group of men all beard up, jeering and masturbating. And I go, well, I don't know about that. That's not happening. It can't be true. Yeah, they're doing it in secret, you daft cunt. So that's the point. You're not meant to know because you would have an objection to it, you fucking bell end. Like, I can't even believe the cunt's going, well, because I didn't know about this secret clandestine activity, it can't be happening. What the fuck? Like, are you this backwards, you mad cunt? Like, it's ridiculous. So stupid. But anyway, so just to wrap up this episode of By the Numbers League of Legends edition, I just think, like, there are some orgs that really, really need to just have the fucking boot put on their throats for a bit, because they all engage in the same activity, and that is that they get away, they use their size and importance within these little ecosystems to basically get away with doing outrageous bullshit as often as they can. And TSM are definitely one of them. Team Liquid are one of them. Cloud9 are one of them. And there's a whole bunch. I'm probably missing a ton. FaZe, obviously. And then what they do is they use that size, and then they turn around and they go, well, you can't penalize us because then, like, we can bring this whole motherfucker down. And then when anyone calls them on minor things, which, by the way, that is the only penalty, that is the only price you'll pay. You still got to keep all the millions.
You got away with it. I'm just not allowed to call out that you got away with it.
Yeah, you get away with it every time. You get away with it every time. You get to keep the mills. You get to stay in the league. You get to keep poaching or doing whatever you're doing. You've got a loyal, aggressive fan base that will make it that all you ever need to do is just criticize one person mildly, and they will make that person's life a hell for a period of approximately 5 to 6 years. You win, but the only price that you have to pay for that is occasionally there will be the dissenting voice that will say, you did the bad thing. And in your fucking hubris, that's not enough. You think that is an outrageous price to pay for all the shit you get away with. So maybe it's time. I keep saying this. There has to be like a coalition or a confederacy, whatever you want to call it, a journalist that are just like, all right, you have done the outrageous thing, called a journalist a liar, even though they're not. You've tried to hurt their livelihood.
No, it's not a single individual said shit about this.
No. We will now turn over every fucking stone. Exactly. We will. Yeah, that's how it should go. Like, you like, think about the mainstream media, and they are lying pieces of shit. But you go after one of them, you get fucked. They are up in your arsehole like TSA with a fucking flashlight. You got piles, sir. They tell you what you had for fucking breakfast. They find all your old tweets. It doesn't even matter. You don't even have to be doing anything bad. Give to a charity. They go through your tweets. Did you know that the man who just saved the lives of 500 kids tweeted something bad 10 years ago? Brilliant. Okay. Hey, look, we're going to have a black host at the Oscars. No, we're not. He made a joke 8 years ago I didn't like. Brilliant. So, that's how the mainstream are operating. They go after fucking anyone and everyone. Us, we just sit around and we go, yeah, but I might want to interview Double Lift at an event, so I guess it's all right that TSM fucking completely shredded journalists' reputation and integrity based on absolutely nothing except outrageous lies, because they refuse to just accept they're capable of doing anything wrong, because they're just fucking egotistical, narcissistic cunts. It's madness. It's absolute madness. I mean, there'll be stories out there, by the way, that you could really turn the screw on fucking TSM.
Of course. That's
and all these big organizations.
They haven't got skeletons in the closet.
Yeah, of course they have. Well, I mean, look at that fucking YouTube video you just put out, by the way, as well.
They took that down, don't worry.
Yeah, we'll cover that up.
Saved.
Not a problem.
The best, don't worry, Rich. I archived it immediately.
Yeah, of course. But think about right. Like, now, listen, I'm not going to defend what was going on at Renegades, although it's nothing to do with Monty. I've said this many times. He got massively fucked, potentially out of millions of dollars, because literally, so here's what happened. When Chris Badawi first came into the scene, a lot of people thought he was like connected to Arab money and he was going to be wealthy and all this. And I remember Reginald telling me at the time, saying, I am barely a millionaire. This guy's a multi-millionaire. What are we going to do? He can poach all the players. He can play by his own set of rules. You mean the exact thing you all want to do yourselves and do yourselves. You were just worried that somebody was going to come in and do it better than you. So you conspired and colluded to fuck him over from day one. And if he hadn't have been involved in some shady shit, he would never, he would never have got because all the stuff you accused him of initially was lies. It was outrageous lies. That ridiculous.
Well, people forget that it was initially based on an absolute sham.
Oh, it was absolute lies, and there was no evidence for any of it except people coming out and saying, "Yeah, he definitely did the bad thing," right? And you did it with Rick Fox. Now, Rick Fox is too much of a class act,
don't they?
Yeah, Rick Fox is too much of a class act to ever come out and say it. But the Three Kings, when they saw Rick Fox coming in, and again, Vision Venture Partners, we all know it's ended badly, but they had loads of money and he was connected with multi-millionaires and VC groups, and they were fucking terrified that Echo Fox was going to come into the space and suddenly they were going to be a TSM. They were going to be a Cloud9 overnight, and they would have the clout and the money to turn their fucking lights off and get a team that would just dominate the region. So what did they do? All the same little bullshit, sneaky tricks they were using, the non-disclosed visas, all of this stuff that was it's just business as normal in League of Legends. What, you think everyone who ever played in League of Legends had a P1 visa? Fucking get real. Of course they didn't. There were so many people who were out there on fucking Estes competing in North America. But what happened? Well, one of the players that fucking Rick picked up, and funnily enough, was a recommendation from the Three Kings, because they came as friends at first, because they always do. He fucking basically then got ratted out, and I'll tell you, they all went for tacos. A Riot employee and two members of the Three Kings went and met and had tacos with him and said, "Yeah, this Rick Fox is breaking all the rules. You got to fuck him over." And that was all just predicated on his clout, his size, the fear that they were going to get. This is how they operate. This is who they are, by the way. The rules don't apply to them, and they'll fuck over anyone. Think about Rick Fox and what a great ambassador for esports he's been. And on day one, those guys were conspiring to fuck him because they were jealous and nervous that he might eat into their fucking market share. That's who those people are, by the way. And these are the people that you're going to listen to when it comes to ethical, quandaries and morality. These people don't have ethics. Their ethics are, how big can I make my bank balance and still pretend to you, the pleb, that I'm down to earth as I come outside my fucking mansion and interact with you. It's ridiculous. It's the same shit with FaZe. And, no, we've got nothing to do with CSGO Wild. We're just exclusively promoting them, advertising them. We're just having a holiday in the company where it was fucking registered. Oh, by the way, here's one of the co-owners. He's on the fucking lease for the FaZe house that we know because there was a lawsuit from the owner because of damages that went on in the... Yeah, no, nothing to see here, guys. These motherfuckers get away with it every time. You cunts let them. Right, that's the show. Let's do it. No, let's talk about some CS now. You got anything finally you want to add?
No, I think we covered most of this. I mean, if people want to hear my side, I've basically made a pretty exhaustive video on this topic. It's called Clarifying the TSM Holy War. So you already know from the title, straight fire, by the way. And actually, I'll just add to kind of what you said at the end there. That's the main reason this has happened. First of all, you've noticed, this is what people will not understand about the timeline, is I haven't just done this straight away. I did a story. Oh, it's more of an op-ed, actually. I did a video with a bit of context, some evidence presented, and then my thoughts on it as to why it pertained to a more abstract rule about how you conduct businesses and leagues. Then what I've done actually is, in fact, because in the past I've worked with people like TSM, and I thought that they were vaguely reasonable. Actually, turned out they were just essentially trying to manipulate me, like you said. That essentially, I've allowed them to push this as far as it goes. But what I've ensured is, I'm never going to let them have the last word. They're never going to have the last word, which is that I'm a cunt and a liar. I'm going to always respond. And so what I realized eventually was, it's not only never going to end, but the way that they're doing it, they've already done so much damage to someone who's done absolutely nothing malicious to them, that actually they now have become the ultimate avatar of exactly what you're talking about. The orgs that decide they can just play God with the lives of journalists and other people in the scene. And the big problem is this. I'll just mention this. Over the years, when I've been involved in some of these rocks with TSM, I've had people come forwards to me behind the scenes, and low-level people, you wouldn't even know them if I mentioned, you would, but other people wouldn't. Just people on the fringes of journalism, or they're just a journalist who works for a big site, but they don't have a name. They're just for a big site. And they've basically told me, yeah, I've been told like to never do a story like that again, or I've been told we're going to have to kill the story, or we're going to have to walk the story back, or we're going to have to take details out, or you know what? Now I have to myself conduct like an interview where I give them a chance to basically call me a liar and stuff. And so when I found all this stuff out, what I decided a few years back was, you know what? They're not fucking with me right now. And as famously is the case, I'm not an investigative journalist. That's not my main field. I just do it when it's like it has to be done, and I notice no one else does that story. By the way, any journalists out there, great intuition for when you should step forwards, when it's in a matter that actually you care about and no one else will do it, but it needs to be done. So in that scenario, right, I decided they ever actually come at me in this way and in a fucked up man like that, like they try to make it like personal things, then I'll expose them for who they are. And that's all I've done. That's all I've promised I will do. But as you know, mate, that's way worse than making a video calling them cunts and saying that they're all pieces of shit stuff. The things that they've done, if they come out, it's 10 times worse than this. This is just a story where there's like a conflict of interest and things could go wrong. They haven't yet, but it's a concern for the state of integrity of the industry and their organization. The real things these kinds of people have done haven't come out. In fact, they are the only team I've ever seen that have this insane ability to use their fans to essentially run interference for them on stories and criticism. Like, for example, when that information came out, by the way, I Will Dominate even showed it on his stream, one of the biggest streamers in all of League of Legends. When he showed those documents, but he just showed them briefly, which I showed in the video. Oh, don't worry, that made it onto a Reddit thread. I believe it was either downvoted or deleted. So essentially, TSM's allowed to put their evidence out, and then when you counter it with evidence that shows that they're lying, it's deleted and or downvoted by their fan base and the mods. So at this point in time, now you have to do something about it.
Yeah. Right. So let's get into some CS talk, eh?
All right.
There's not really a lot of fucking big stories.
One just came out just before the show.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm saving that to the end.
All right, fair enough.
We'll go into that just before the viewer questions. So here's one that we'll talk about, because then we can get into a general topic. Sick, who you probably saw, he was over at Chaos very briefly, standing in. He's played for a bunch of teams, TSM, Complexity, and Rogue, most notably in his career. He's said that he's going to retire. I didn't realize how young the motherfucker was. He's still like 21. But he's going to be retiring from Counter-Strike because he's getting on this bandwagon that everyone's getting on, where they think that if you go to Valorant, it's going to be this candy land of opportunity and money and fame and riches. And by virtue of having not necessarily succeeded to the degree you would have liked in one game, you're going to suddenly jump into a completely different game, and you're going to get all the things that you wanted. So I wanted to just talk about this in general, because there's a lot of people doing this. And I'm not talking about Sinatra from Overwatch League. He's a legit player. He went out at the top.
That's actually a baller move that he did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also as well, just to put the cards on the table. If you're a competitive Overwatch player, you should go play anything but Overwatch.
Yeah.
The game is garbage. No one's having a good time.
He just realized, wait a minute, while I'm the biggest player right now and have the maximum leverage, fuck it, I use this to get this is my out. Yeah, totally. So if you're an Overwatch player, right now, like here's the reality: fucking Activision Blizzard don't know how to balance the game. They've given up trying, by the way. They're not adding any new heroes at the same degree that you thought they were maybe going to at the start of it. They're locking you into this 2-2-2 system, which is really stifled creativity. They're banning certain champions from being picked on a weekly basis, which again is just absolutely absurd that you cannot balance your game, and that's what you're going to go with. Players are down, viewership is down, salaries are not great. They never got to the point that you thought they were going to get to. The average salary in Overwatch, while it's got that, $50,000 minimum, most players are sort of operate. What was it, 25,000? I can never forget. I think it was 50,000, wasn't it? Is the mandated salary minimum for the league. Most players aren't getting above that.
and they're playing a game they hate for no viewership, no following, no merchandising opportunities, and some of them are even living in dog shit houses, the likes of which you wouldn't believe. Like, I lived in better accommodation when I was a student in the early noughties. So obviously you jump across if you're an Overwatch player, but Counter-Strike players, there is a little bit of sort of like, I don't want to stick the boot in, but it is kind of pathetic, because if you think you're going to just fall into a team just by virtue of being a not successful CS player, it's not going to pan out like that at all for you guys. And there are some players that I think are going to like do very well. I think Brax will kill it over there at T1. I think if Steel takes the plunge, he'll do very, very well. But I think players like this, all you're doing by having a big pity party and announcing a retirement is you're going to make yourself look like a cunt when you come back.
Oh, that's the stupidest part about it, isn't it? Especially as that's where you knew, again, the people in our industry that are fake. Because the ones that came out, and because, yes, in Overwatch League, in theory, the biggest profile player left, they tried to make it seem like, and CSGO pros are going as well. It's like,
yeah.
But about the most loose definition of pro you could actually have at this point in time. Like someone who was a pro in the past, yeah, and who's on the fringes of being a pro now. But the whole point is, it's not in their scenario. I mean, I would use for them the analogy I use for like what's going on with ESL and Flashpoint and all that. It's like, it's not that it's brilliant to jump out of a window and hope you land off the third floor. It's that if the room's on fire and the door's locked behind you, what fucking choice do you have? You take your chances, don't you? So anyone at the moment from CSGO, as far as I can tell, who's going to Valorant, is doing it because they just think there's fuck all future for them in CSGO. And some of them, it's not even true, which is tilt-worthy, like the Wardells of the world. But some of them, I get it. You're right with Sick, because he's had a million chances. Remember, I always tell people this. This is how you know that Sick's career was terrible. Is him and Twists were two youngsters at the same time. In fact, this is a real thing. If you ask around the scene, I remember it. Sick was thought to be the better of the two at the beginning, and they both were there at the same time. And look, all you have to do is look where Twist's career goes and then track Sick's against it. It's terrible. It's like one succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, the other one just never made it. And so, unfortunately, like, he's also someone where I don't know anything about him as a person, so I can't cast any aspersions as a teammate and whatnot. But I'll just say, like, he doesn't seem to be like a beloved teammate that people need to have in teams, because I think he's more skilled actually than some of the players that actually remain in teams above him, etc. So there's got to be some reason, but everyone is sort of they're done with him. No one's gonna go and say, right, maybe he's got a chance to do something finally. It's like, nah, they've had the chances. There's a bunch of people like that.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, like, just in general, having played a lot of Valorant, I've got it uninstalled now because I'm going to put a video out tomorrow talking about, mate, this fucking revolutionary anti-cheat they've supposedly got is an absolute
everyone's cheating. That's what everyone keeps telling me.
Mate, it's a fucking clown fiesta, but it's not even that. What you have to give up, it turns off Wi-Fi drivers, the anti-cheat, like certain types of Wi-Fi drivers. It turns off your CPU sensor, so you can't monitor temperatures.
Do you want to imagine fun hypothetical? I say that because I immediately was thinking of the legal ramifications of saying what I was about to say. So fun, hypothetical that could never happen. And imagine if it did, but it wouldn't, of course, is because of how much shady shit I have seen on a serial basis from Riot Games. Part of me wouldn't even have put it past them to literally, because remember, thus far haven't promised this is going to be an esport. They haven't promised it'll have a big scene. They haven't put any commitment. All they've done is make a closed beta, invite everyone in esports, including mainly people from rival games and their enemies, to play it with an insanely invasive anti-cheat, which, thanks to LPK, we know when you get invasive enough, you can just read people's shit on their PC that they're doing on programs.
You know what? Definitely do that.
That would be the best way ever when you're in a super crux moment in the industry. You've got all these people could destroy you to just try and find out what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Hypothetical, of course, would never happen.
Hypothetical. I mean, I've said this as well. I mean, like, you know, think about I was mad paranoid because, like, why are you inviting me? I'm your arch nemesis. All right, yeah, install this fucking malware. Yeah, and we'll just read all your emails. We'll find out all your leak. Yeah, we'll find all your sources.
That's like if Riot Games came to you, Richard, like, you know what, Richard? We've had our had our differences in the past, but you are the best journalist. So we'd like to give you our own custom-made, state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line rig. And it's going to have everything. Windows comes pre-installed, everything. Don't install any programs. Just like you wouldn't even take it, wouldn't you? Just go, you know what? It's brilliant, but Sam is a new PC. And also don't ever do any work on it.
Yeah. But I'm you know, like, I'll say that that's one of the sort of downsides, like how bad this sort of anti-cheat software has been, and they shot themselves in the foot by massively overhyping it. Like I said, I got a video.
Never ever made an FPS and being like, you know what? Be no hackers in ours.
Yeah, I know it's so mental in it. Like, but this is what I mean. So it's like I was kind of like, well, what are they going to be doing different? They must be doing something. And it's like, okay, the fog of war system they use, got that in CS. It doesn't stop anything. Because basically, if we're talking in game scale, as soon as somebody's within 20 meters of you, your ESP locks in. It's not instantly banning cheats, which seems strange because Valve's rationale for not instantly banning cheats is we catch more by delaying it, because then the cheat code will go, see, it's undetected, people download it, and then we get, like, instead of getting the first guy that installs it, and then everyone panics and they recode it and re-upload it and whatever, so the signature's different. Actually, we get them all. We get them all by waiting 3 weeks. It's like they do it like a sting operation. Riot Games haven't said anything about that being the system, and so far, like, I mean, dude, the cheats in the game, it's so prolific, and at the highest level, you're talking all the aimbots that they said were going to be instantly detectable. They're working. Wall hacks that weren't going to be possible, they're fully working. So I don't know what it's actually stopping, and I don't understand why you would have this malware from a Chinese-owned company on your computer. By the way, it's the law in China that Chinese companies have to share data with the government if the government ever asks for it. So just putting that out there. I don't know how that legally applies to companies in America, but just letting you know that is.
Again, this time I'll be even more careful. Imagine that ridiculous hypothetical scenario I said earlier, but the person installing Valorant and playing it, where in theory, in this hypothetical world, it could maybe read other things you do and say on your PC. They were from a country also in Asia that's not by some considered China, and that's all I'll say. That'd be pretty sinister, wouldn't it?
It would. So anyway, the whole Valorant, people jumping across to Valorant, I'll tell you, you know, I actually have enjoyed my time with the game. It's not something that's going to hold my attention. Fun. Yeah, listen, it's basically the same ethos that went into League of Legends, that, like, we all understand Dota's got a much harder learning curve, and it's not a pick up and play game. In fact, it's completely antithetical to that. What we're going to try and do is strip out some of the more difficult components of the game to understand, and we're going to sort of dumb it down a little bit to a certain degree, and we're going to try and make it a bit more, you know, fast paced, and everyone's got spells. And
to me, the whole point of the game is the reason why CSGO has somewhat plateaued, and it can gradually improve if we do a great job making it grow, and Valve does a good job catering to everyone, but it can only gradually grow. The reason it'll never get much higher is there's a lot of people in the world, this might sound crazy to some of you if you're idiots, who don't enjoy the idea that what I'm going to do for the next 2 minutes is go to an area, I go to the same area at the beginning of every map around, and I'm going to try and jiggle peek on the corner against someone who's an expert precision aimer, and if I don't instantly kill him within 0.02 seconds, he will bang my head off with an AK. That's the end of the round. I've utterly fucked up. My teammates hate me, and the next round, I probably have to go and do that again. That's not fun for some people. Some people, it's insanely fun. It's like you have to have a certain mentality. You almost have a boxer's mentality where you have to be willing to have a shit game and take.
Oh yeah, the nightmare world of the entry fragger, we call that, mate.
You know the old joke.
Feast or famine, innit?
People used to make the joke about Counter-Strike that if you ever tried to dumb it down, that's what you'd do. You'd just do stuff like, you know, if you got the max money, you could buy an airstrike like in Call of Duty. You could buy a rocket launcher. You could have a gun that shoots through walls, because the idea would be this would be a way to make it so that even the casual could have fun in a game where, in the other scenario, the Nikos of the world mean he wouldn't even get a bullet off half the time. So the problem is, though, that very thing that it makes it brilliant also is the thing that, as you can tell, almost makes it less likely it can be an esport.
Yeah, so my review for the game's going to come out soon. I'm doing a double review, so I'm reviewing it from the perspective of just the game, which will be pretty favorable.
That's a good
and
idea.
then I'm doing a review from a perspective of it as an esport. Now, the things I'll just throw in while we're just talking about Valorant, the map design is dog shit. I don't know how. Everyone was making a big deal about how like Volcano was going to be involved. I certainly hope he's not responsible. I certainly hope he's not responsible for these atrocities because the map design is fucking garbage. The one with 3 bomb sites is a nightmare. If you get the bomb down on A and you're on C, don't even bother rotating because you've got 50 fucking corners to check before you get there. You're just gonna get banged out by some little fucking worm. Just hey, I'm behind the one box you didn't fucking look at. You know, it's fucking ridiculous. And just really narrow fucking choke points. The movement in the game is too slow. So you're not going to get those like mad sort of strafing, like wide peaks that you might see in Counter-Strike where you bait out a shot and then go for it. But the other thing as well is like, so the maps are terrible, but they don't even balance certain heroes thinking conceptually about the maps. Sage is the most busted hero I've ever seen in any class-based FPS ever in the history of gaming, and I've been there since we were loading motherfucking games on cassettes and cartridges. I've seen it all. Her kit is fucking insane, and I remember when Valorant was coming out, and I did a stream, and I was talking about my opinions about it, and I read her kit, and I said that will be the most broken hero of all time, and everyone was going, haha, look, Raze go boom boom, ban Raze has an instant kill on the ult, Raze bad. Like, you're just fucking morons, aren't you? That kit is broken, and if you play with a good Sage, there is no game. The only way to counter a good Sage is you've got to have a good Sage on your team and just fucking hope that their Sage, but it's ridiculous. The kit's insane. And when you throw in these stupid maps with narrow choke points, $300 and you're just not getting on a site. Here's a wall. The wall lasts 45 seconds. Like, can you imagine anything like this in Counter-Strike, by the way? Can you even imagine it?
I'll actually give you a very quick anecdote as to why that's actually the first thing I thought when I saw Molotovs in Counter-Strike, because I didn't actually take into account the last like 5 seconds or something, you know. I initially thought, like, if you can set a whole floor on fire and it's on fire for, I thought, you know, maybe it's like 15 seconds or something. It's just going to ruin the game because, you know, like on Dust 2, if I don't see anyone cross mid, then I just run and fucking throw a low B and now no one can come mid. Like, you know, like I thought it'd be like that, but obviously in play, it was totally different. The point is, yeah, some of this stuff, it's like on paper, it doesn't make sense. And then in the game, it's just as ridiculous as it sounds. And you think that's why the stupidest angle of all. I get why they did it. It's only stupid to me. So I'm such a niche audience. It's not really going to be something people mind. The fact that everyone kept whipping their dick out about the fact Volcano was involved. Mate, at this point in time, it's like, go on then, tell me what he did. Tell me what he did. Because if I find out it's some of this stuff, there's some respect gone. Like, totally. That's why it was going to be a sick, hardcore game.
Yeah, but like, this is the other thing. Do you remember as well when they put that tweet out? And I've mentioned this in the review. This is why it's fresh in my mind. And they actually said, we promise that the skills aren't going to be about kills. They said your aim will get you your kills. The skills are going to be to augment opportunities for those kills.
Seems like nonsense, bearing in mind some of the shit you can do.
I can just fucking shoot you through a wall on multiple heroes. What are you talking about? I've got a rocket launcher. What happened was the design brief radically changed. And unfortunately, when you try, as you'll quickly find out in the FPS world, when you start throwing in people with kits from MOBAs, Overwatch found this out the hard way as well, and you start putting them into an FPS, it doesn't fucking translate. It doesn't translate. If you want this to be like a hardcore skill game, I'll also add as well, and this is like maybe a controversial thing to say. A lot of people get upset. Like when I think about Overwatch aimers and the people that do a good job in there, Overwatch is a much tougher game than Valorant.
Absolutely.
Frankly.
That's always the area.
It's a much higher skill game.
I have always said the most underrated part of Overwatch is that, listen, if you want to talk Overwatch versus CSGO, I'll be with you. I'll be curb stomping Overwatch with you and saying it's an absolute trash game. But the idea, this is the thing that's always got me in trouble, Richard. The idea people who play fucking League of Legends, where the champion Janna has been viable in solo queue forever. And it's just like, there's one game, and then in the other game, you have literally some of the most insane Korean aimers, because obviously Koreans don't play CSGO, but they do play Overwatch. You have people whose aim is fucking unbelievable, who are the Widowmaker players and the Tracer players. Like, they, even though the game was a train there, it was very hard to watch. If you just chose to only watch that one person, like someone made a highlight clip, you'd see shit there that'd blow your mind, mate. I'm talking really amazing stuff. Not if you're a CSGO fan, maybe, but if you're from any other game, mate, if I'd have been from League of Legends, I'd be like, dude, even like Faker's best play ever doesn't match what this guy could do in like one public server. What the fuck is this? Like, the idea, yeah, exactly, that they're going to talk shit on Overwatch. Like, Overwatch itself, I agree, it's got a lot of flaws because it tried to draw in those MOBA elements. But at its core, it is still about like shooting people and having a fucking sick aim.
Yeah, but like, this is what I mean. What they did is, like, where they fucked up in Overwatch is they went away from the more hardcore elements and started adding shields in, you know, and also as well, you put a hero like fucking Sage in a game. I'm so sick of games developers professing that they love other games and they play games and they're gamers, yet they never learn a single solitary lesson from the mistakes of any other company in the industry. You never heard of Mercy. You never heard how, like, it was just ridiculous. They just had, in the end, they just had to rework her. There was no way to make her sort of into some sort of, you know, niche pick, or, you know, it was just an essential thing. It's a fucking resurrection. It's a fucking team res, for fuck's sake. It's broken as fuck. Like, you would understand that if you would played any other games. And then, we'll just put a healer into an FPS game. It's antithetical of what you're trying to do. If I do 99 damage, right, to you, but you live with 1 HP, that should be a factor in a round. You shouldn't be able to run around a corner and the person there goes, well, he's got 100 HP now. That's that. So my trade, where let's say I don't have a Sage on my team, I now have 50 HP, you're back to 100. That trade that suddenly was in my favor isn't. It will not play a part in the round now. It's nonsense.
I'll give you an analogy. The analogy would be this, because as you say, by the way, what I think you've hit the nail on the head with there, it's always people coming from totally different games, and what they do is almost like you're sitting around, you know, when you sit around, you just spitball a crazy idea. It's like they do that, but then people just make the idea without even like checking it, thinking about it, going and checking the experts. So it would be the equivalent, right, to if tomorrow in the NFL, they changed the rules that each coach every 10 minutes of the game gets a flag, and with this flag, he can just have a mulligan on a play. So if someone hits the deep fucking 50-yard bomb that should be a touchdown, I can just go, you know what? I'm using my flag on that one. Or some running back against an amazing run defense gets a pure hole and he's through. It's like, you know what? I get that back again. It would literally, like, it wouldn't be fun because your coach could do it. You'd just be a cunt like he would, and that would be the game. A cunt has to match a cunt. It would just ruin the entertainment and enjoyment of practically everyone involved. The spectators, the people doing it.
Yeah.
It would just
It's a really good example, actually.
Ruin the core of the game, wouldn't it? Because the reason I gave that example is because obviously in the same way as getting a really hard kill and having the person rezzed, it's like, well, what would even be the point in fucking Hail Mary type plays if you could just reverse it? You're living in it twice, would you?
And you know, to the people that saying, well, why does it work in TF2? Because the fucking healers in that, right? They don't have this outrageous kit. They are literally just running around with a fucking Ghostbusters gun, healing up fucking people and trying to get their ultimates off. And that's their entire role. They can't run around and bang your head off. They can't build a fucking wall that just locks down a fucking entire bomb site, you know, in a 1v1. They can't resurrect people in clutch situations. You know, that's why it works, because whoever balanced that game had an understanding that, yep, healing, pretty broken on its own, that's all they need. Like, we've got to make them weak in other areas. Like, TF2 is the only game. It's tragic what happened to TF2. It's the only class-based FPS I have seen where whoever was balancing that game and making that game, pre-hats, I'm talking pre-hats, had a contextual understanding of how to balance all the classes and make it work. It's one of the most underappreciated competitive games of all time, probably. It should have had a way bigger scene than it did, and it's a far superior game to Overwatch.
You want to know something that might just tickle you a little bit?
Yeah, go on.
The obvious reason back in the day, people used to say that TF2 didn't take off as a game. It was just harder to spectate, wasn't it? But then, of course, don't tell Blizzard that, because, you know, 20 years later, give me a break. Like, you fucking idiots tried to get someone to invest $1 billion into that shit.
Yeah. It's insane. But anyway, we'll move on. We'll get back to CS. I'm like I say, I'm going to drop the review in the next day or two. But I'm
It's like the way this podcast is like TSM League of Legends drama, Valorant review.
Yeah, no, listen, this is the esports edition. This is what an esports podcast would be like if we did one. That's what you're getting today because the news is meaningless. I mean, look, this is how bad it is. Hellraisers announced new roster. Are you ready for this? Do you want to hear this?
People I've never heard of, I can tell.
Oh, mate, they've done it again. They've done it again. Somehow, every time I think Hellraisers can't find more obscure players, they do it. So, Flourish, Kalinka, Problem, Jaime or Jalaim, and JR that you have heard of.
Oh, yeah, from Vegas Squadron,
Yeah.
And I think the Flourish guy, isn't he from like Hungary or something?
Is it Austria?
There we go. It's I vaguely remember.
Or is it Latvia? I don't know.
It's one of those ones. Like I say, it's some like obscure one I don't know the flag of. So like I know those two people vaguely. Obviously, the GR guy, but like I do wonder with teams like with Hellraisers, like what is the like driving force of the project? Like where are you trying to go with this? Like, what is the point aside from like I would suggest so cynically you're just trying to keep your foot in the door in CSGO and somehow you're hoping you just trip over and fucking make it and the game gets huge and you're in it because. Like, in a world where everyone loses money, this looks like such a cynical roster. It's unreal. Like, these are people who just fucking accept, like, a hot sandwich and only one slap in the face instead of two. Like, fucking hell, give me a break. Like,
come in, JR, we'll see what we can do about this.
Exactly.
Give me a cup of tea and a fucking sandwich.
Yeah, folks, can I have a sarnie now? All right, but if you're going to eat it here, then it has to be a pound extra because you're eating inside a restaurant. It's got that same tax inside the Hellraisers fucking HQ. They probably have to pay for their own sandwiches at Hellraisers, to be fair. It's probably one of those things, isn't it?
You know, but like, this is what I've never understood it.
Discount 10% off.
I've never understood why these are right. Like it's like you say, right now, this industry is.
You remember that bad example where Hellraisers, when they signed, I think it was Bondic years ago, when they signed it, like the graphics, because obviously the theme is there, Hellraisers, was that he signed like a contract with the devil. How do you ever even use that, like the imagery in like a professional contract? Like,
yeah, it's a mad Faustian pact.
Like. I know, that's so stupid.
But yeah, like listen, we're about to fucking cruise into a recession, right? Like it's coming, believe. Like I mean, we're already there.
In teams, give me a break.
Yeah, so it's like, why even have a team?
Meanwhile, Astralis is like, Device, can you just say that you're voluntarily selling one of your kidneys? What? It's like that's the world we're in. Meanwhile, they're just like, our new team would like to unveil.
I know, it's just really weird. Like, there's no need for you to have a team at this moment in time. Like, what events are they even in? The MDL Europe
or some bullshit.
I mean, I suppose from that respect, if you don't field a team, you lose that slot. So I suppose, like, if you just get 5 guys together, but I mean, who even cares at that point? You know, like it's just weird. I was just looking at the world ranking, 184th in the world. Think about what Hellraisers used to be. They were 184th in the world rankings. But yeah, I don't know. No opinions on this fucking team whatsoever.
I don't remember 2 years ago didn't they fluke it and make top 8 at the major? I think they did actually, didn't they? Am I wrong?
Probably.
I think they did. I think they made it the Face It Major, didn't they? Or if it wasn't, they were on the brink. But I think they might have actually fluked it. I'll double check.
Well, we can move on from that while you do check, and we can talk about part of the Hellraisers alumni. They
made Legends spot at the Face It Major like just less than 2 years ago, and from that 198th or whatever you said. Fucking hell.
Yeah, 184th. Yeah, that might be a worse drop off than fucking Cloud9.
Mate, even ENCE is looking over there going, I'd just give up on the project.
Well, they're doing all right now, mate. Now that Jampi's in the fucking mix, like,
I know,
it's actually giving them a shot in the arm. Who fucking saw that coming? But anyway, we'll talk about one of the Hellraisers alumni. Oskar has left Sprout.
This is going to be the shittest drama I've ever followed, by the way. It just gets worse and worse over time, but not even in an interesting way.
Yeah, well, I'll let you go first. You give me your thoughts on this, then.
Basically, Oscar's career has been a mixture of the, as far as I can tell, on an informed basis, real problem that he has, that he's too much older than all his teammates, and he's already a bit of a strange guy anyway, and he comes from such
he's a full-blown weirdo.
He comes from such
I'm just going with it. He's a fucking weirdo.
He comes from such a strange background as a gamer anyway, because he just was slaving away in the mines of 1.6 in obscurity until he finally got a crack in CSGO, and then sort of like had some bizarre second half to his career that should never have existed. And then as a result, he goes all the way to the heights of literally being a player who's on a team that's like semi-finals of majors. Actually, I think it was quarterfinals. Actually, quarterfinals of majors, winning tournaments, number 2 ranked in the world. He was like he was a top 10 player in the world that year. Yeah. And then after that, every single move down is just, it's like, forget diminishing returns. Like, these are embarrassing returns. It's like you keep going to worse and worse teams, and then even worse, your levels dropping when you're at these teams, and they're criticizing you. And then that whole thing that I do think, I've often said this, I do think that even though it's true, a lot of that stuff about his personality, I think it was a bit mean and spiteful of Janko and fucking Nico, essentially, to be the ones who sort of propagated that in the scene. Like, because you know how narratives are, like, people, when they even meet Oskar, are just waiting for him to do something fucking weird. I mean, I knew he's a weird cunt. It's like, give him a chance, for fuck's sake. Like,
yeah, listen, I'm guilty of that. I'm the one that fucking talked about it as well on this podcast about how it's weird.
We're just talking about things that are public knowledge at that point in time. But I think for certain things like that, you should keep it in the locker room, you know? Yeah,
you're right. I mean, like, it's just a tough one because it's ruined his whole career.
Oh, it has.
There's no getting away from it. This is a guy that, as you said, when he finally got his chance late in the fucking day, right? When he finally got that chance, he shouldn't have had that second half. He shouldn't have had that fucking swan song. And it's like you said, he got right up there. There was people having debates. Is he a better AWPer than Guardian? Could he play on a top tier team? You know, like how far could he go? He's only 27. He's been 27 for fucking 50 years, this cunt. He's straight lying about his age. He's ridiculous. But, you know, he's only 20. He's 27. He's still got time. But then his weirdness, his inherent weirdness, just has fucked him out of, like...
It's when you watch that video of him eating the Chinese food. Listen...
But it's not even that. You can't use chopsticks. That's probably true with some people.
No, but
I mean, okay, actually, no. Because the difference is, you can't use chopsticks because you're not dexterous, people out there in chat. Okay. He doesn't understand the concept of chopsticks. He's looking at these things like, what do I do? And he's trying to pick up individual noodles. Like, it's mental. It's like an alien has come down and just been told, like, this is how we ingest nutrients to keep us alive. Like,
I always never understood this part as well. Remember, even though his teammate was filming him, because like Sticko apparently was just decided to go. He's like the kid who's just being bullied, and then finally another weird kid joins the school and he goes, "Haha, can I get in on this, guy?" It's like he's just fucking his life up as well. So with Sticko or whoever it was who filmed that video, it's like, even though that's happening, he was just in his hotel room. I've never understood this part. I've never understood this part about that video. As soon as you find it doesn't work, right? If you're a normal person, you could use your hands. There's another option. Have you ever seen how an animal eats? Just puts its face in it, doesn't it? Just put your face in the noodles. Just have a little nosh. Yeah, clean you. Get a
have a nosh. You, Ronnie O'Sullivan.
And then just fucking go to sleep. Don't just try to in vain pick up one fucking noodle.
I'll be honest with you, Duncan. I think you might be exposing some of your weirdness here, because if he'd gone face first in the fucking noodles, I think that video would be 10 times worse if he just started muffing his fucking Chinese dinner. Like, that'd be outrageous. Yeah, but I mean, the reality is, at some point, the concept should kick in about how to use chopsticks. Like, you shouldn't be like
could you watch
doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah, but anyway, it's not even that.
Just Google it.
It's not even that, mate. It's just how he is in teams. He doesn't want to do any of the social stuff. He doesn't want to do any of the PR stuff. He's very emotional and highly strung in game, which, well, Richard, you're talking out of school. No, I'm not, because we know that happened back when he played in that fucking team and had was it Mouse Sports, and he had a fucking breakdown and stopped AWPing and was telling Nico to AWP. And this happened live on VOD. This is massively unprofessional, and it shows a level of emotional immaturity that no top tier pro can have, let alone a clutch player that's supposed to be carrying your team to tournament victories. So I mean, like, listen, his entire career is fucked. The reality is, if you go look at the tweet that Sprout put out, due to unbridgeable differences, like, Sprout are terrible. Sprout have the runoff of the German scene, right? They are not a good team. you bridge a difference for a talented fucking player. You bridge that difference.
He's the best player. I mean, not in this team, but that in terms of his level, no player who plays for Sprout will ever be as good as Oskar was.
No,
just obvious.
No. He's like the fact that Sprout get to say he's like one of those one of their alumni is a ridiculous coup for them. Like no org like Sprout should ever have a player like Oskar. That's how far down the fucking food chain he's gone. That he is now in, but he can't even tie down a role. Like, what next for Oskar? It has to be the question. Like, where do you go if you can't bridge differences on a team that desperately need you because you are the only thing sort of making them relevant to the discussion? Well, if you can't make it at Sprout, there's nothing left for you, mate. There's he should just announce his retirement. Frankly, I think at this point, I don't know if you agree with that, but where would he go? What would he do?
I mean, I agree in as much as I don't even think I'll always say this: people like that, if they're playing badly, they're also usually not very happy with it. Like, it's usually not very satisfying for them. Like, I'm sure that's just grinding on you, and you've already had the heights that you're never seemingly going to go up to again. So why are you still playing? You just do it for someone on the side? Like, I kind of agree. I don't really know what the point is. Essentially, like, I don't really know what he's getting.
Well, you can't even be commanding a salary. Like, if you want to be a check stealing fucking bitch and just make money and have no love for the game, but you can just make a paycheck, like there's some sort of perverse respect I can have for that. You're making your Skrilla, fair fucks. It beats going back to the building site or whatever you did before. So I'm down with that to a certain degree, but he's not getting a good salary in Sprout, is he? Like we're talking about Hellraisers and those guys getting a hot sandwich. Well, what a Sprout offering Oskar, it can't be that much. If he was making €2,000 a month, I'd be surprised if it's more than that, given Sprout's financial capabilities, which isn't anything for a top tier player, really. When you look,
to be fair though, it still is decent.
Well, not just that; it covers your rent. I mean, that's how I always think about it. Like, first thing, keep the roof over your head. If you get a job and you've got something left over after your rent payment, you're probably doing okay. But anyway, I just don't think he was even making that much money off it. It's just. I think you just got to throw in the towel, like, at this point. Like, no one's picking you up. Nobody. It is bye-bye, Oskar. It should be bye-bye permanently. I don't mean dead. I mean, just retire from the game.
That's right, we have to even clarify.
Bit dramatic, I know. You have to, yeah. Because, like, someone will take that clip. Richard Lewis says he thinks Oskar should die. I don't. ESL and DreamHack news. Obviously,
some good news, obviously, so...
Well, no, but this is it's an interesting piece of news, Duncan. Basically, there was an announcement, and there was a lot of rumors flying around that Twitch was going to be scaling back their esports spending. And if you remember, famously, one of the reasons ESL had to go out and sign other deals, with YouTube, famously with Facebook, was because Twitch were not paying them their due for the sort of number of views and the attention it gets. I mean, listen, there's no getting away from it. The ESL events are hang on. All right, we're good. All good. Anyway, what the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah.
What are you talking about? Why can't you see it on the stream if it's on the camera?
Because that side of the screen is cut off.
Yeah, it's cut off.
Oh, right. I was going to say, what are you doing with the camera? Has Richard finally got it, the VR technology, so that he looks like 10 years younger if I look on the stream?
Mate, VR hair.
He's got like one of those next level Instagram filters that just does convince me it's obviously a simulation we live in, that those even exist.
There's also a mad rumor going around now, Duncan, as well, because I made the joke famously about, I'll just rock up with a hair transplant, right? People think I've gone and got one. I
will say, listen, I know you're going to do that thing where it's like, I assume you get insecure about fucking the hairline going back. I don't get this. I assumed that the reason you went fully bald for so many years is that it just gotten so bad that you're like, fuck it, If you actually could have had a hair like that, why were we just bald all the time? Like, you should rock that for a few more years.
Because it's at the back. I got Zidane going on.
The thing at the back, right?
And no, but this is what I'm saying. There are people out there that commit way bigger hair atrocities. Like, some people are just in at the back and they just do it. Like, fuck it. I mean, like, I probably will.
It's obvious example,
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, some people are just committing absolute hair crimes. What I did, as soon as I started going bald at the back and the 2p piece grew into a fucking pork pie size bald spot, I'm like, fucking bollocks to it. Like, I'll just fucking shave my head or do it decently with a bit of respect. Turns out I shouldn't have had no respect. I should be committing hair crimes like the rest of the baldy bastards.
But if you've ever seen that meme where it just shows like a picture of fucking Elon Musk like 20 years ago and now, and it just goes like, when you get so rich, your hair grows back, because he was just like a mad balding cunt back then. Now he has like a full head of hair, looks about 20 years younger.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like, so people have started like on my YouTube comments going, Richard Lewis had that hair transplant, and so it's like it's going to be a thing. Like, no, I didn't. I was. This is again, it's mental illness. It's mental illness. You see, like people ascribe the way you look. Like people are telling me, "Oh, Richard, yeah, do you remember when you used to weigh 350 pounds?" No, I was never that fat. Like,
I'm not big. What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. I was never that big. Like, I was never fat. I've never been above 300 pounds in my life. Like my heaviest, I think I'm like 245 or something. You know, like people hate you, so they say you're fat, and then they imagine you're fatter than you actually are. Or, you know, people hate you and they think balding, they think it's a thing, so they imagine that you have no hair in their mind, and then they live that reality, and then you grow hair, and well, no, you can't. You must have been bald the whole time. You must have been seriously balding, and you've had a hair transplant. That's it. So yeah, people are actually starting to do it, but whatever. I'm gonna grow this out, and I'm gonna see if I can get to the stage where if I grow this bit here, how much of a switch can I get the Didier Drogba going? Yeah, can I get the Didier Drogba going?
Be wearing a
I reckon I can
now,
Drogba it, mate.
There you go.
I reckon I can. I reckon I can do a Drogba.
Liverpool Torres style.
Yeah, he was another cunt. Hair crimes. Oh, it's all right when you're a footballer, isn't it? Do you remember Wayne Rooney when he was like fucking 18? Was like doing a Donald Trump as well, full sweeping his hair over, and then he had to go get a transplant. This is how you know when cunts have a transplant. There's no hiding a hair transplant. You either have to Tim Pool it and wear a hat all the fucking time, because you've covered in dots on your fucking head because they put a needle in to the hair follicles. I wouldn't have been able to fucking hide it. So I haven't had one, guys.
As if Tim Pool's the go-to, because he just always wears those fucking little beanies or whatever.
No, he's mad insecure about his baldness, and
yeah.
Like some cunt fucking ripped his hat off on when he was at one of the marches and he had a breakdown. Just fucking grow up. Like,
I know, it's the idea that's like the trauma in your life. It's like, listen,
I know.
I know that for you it is a trauma. I know that that's the most important thing in your life. That's something really dangerous and life's so safe now that that's really bad. But I just think of like all of my ancestors in every generation go back that were in the mines and everything, and they would just slap the motherfucking taste out your mouth. If that was like your biggest concern in life. Like,
Can you even imagine it? Can you even imagine like fucking trying to like say to like my fucking great uncle, my uncle Ken, who drank himself to death because he was ravaged with industrial illnesses. He had fucking fingers he couldn't move. He had black lung. And in the end, he said, fuck it. They used to call him 42 because he drank 42 pints in a single day down the club. He was an animal. Like, well, I'm going to say to him, oh, Ken, I can't go out today. Like, I'm going bald at the back. He fucking leather me to death. Like, what's wrong with you? Get your fucking head in the game. No, I'm going bald, Ken. I can't go up with it. People just have no priorities. But we work in a very fickle industry. Like, we just, we work in a fickle industry. Anyway, what the fuck were we talking about? Yeah, fickle industry. ESL and DreamHack, right? They signed a deal with Twitch for exclusivity on their esports tournaments. So all of their ESL and DreamHacks now are going to be shown exclusively on Twitch for 2021 and 2022. And this comes at a time, as I said, when there were rumors in the industry that Twitch was scaling back their esports spending after the Overwatch League debacle, which famously for 2 years was $90 million for the exclusivity. Now, I've also been told that number...
Say the number for this one, isn't it? Because when it's good, you brag about it. It's brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, right? But the first point I'll make is that $90 million number that always gets touted. To be fair, I've talked to inside sources, and they say that was with all sorts of additional, like performance bonus type stuff. So it never quite got there, right? But it's obviously you lead with the potential number, don't you? Because that's what grabs the headlines. But anyway, the fact that they've spent anything to keep ESL and DreamHack when in the future they've allowed them to go is probably a good sign. I think ESL have had like incredible explosive growth during the global pandemic. You know, they're breaking records with online CS. We had Katowice, got like 1.3 million people watching the fucking final. That's like a major or something. And, it's not like they did anything extra. It wasn't in, it doesn't start up with the game client. There was no bullshit there.
Yeah.
So this is a good sign. But I agree with you. First point is they've conveniently left the number out of that fucking press release because I'm guessing it's nothing compared to the 90 mil of the Overwatch League. It's probably and for all of the tournaments exclusively for 2 years, it probably would actually do them a disservice to publicly announce it. I don't know. I don't know if you have any insight in
No, I don't know anything behind the scenes, but I agree. The initial assumption, even the way it's phrased, it seemed like they were very careful not to hype the financial element at all. It was instead just focusing on, like, as you say, like that they want to partner with each other and that, this is the top streaming platform and this is the top, the basic, just the most basic flavor text you could ever want. There was a part of it did smack of not only like mild desperation on the side of ESL, because remember with their Pro Tour and what they're gambling with the Pro Tour, they're gambling for it all. They're gambling to be the kings of CS and one of the kings of esports. So why would you want to already be locked in for next year as well? Yeah. I mean, I know there's the pandemic scenario certainly makes you uncertain, but that's smacks of desperation. And then secondly, I'll just say this. Like, this is one of those areas where if you know how incestuous esports is at the top of the scene of who knows who and who wants who to succeed, and where people sometimes who in theory can have conflicting interests bizarrely help each other out and like prop people up. A part of it does make me also feel like this is almost like Twitch just keeping DreamHack and ESL afloat. I mean, you don't want to listen. You can't afford to lose them. And here's why. Because nobody can replace them in the short term, especially not right now. As in, nobody, like, I mean, Flashpoint would do its tournaments, but we're not going to come and do all fucking stadium events. I mean, there aren't any at the moment. But if they were, we're not going to, it would never be the size of ESL within a year anyway. So if you're Twitch, as mad as it sounds, this is almost like when the banks come to the government and they say, if you let goes go under, we're all fucked. So you have to give us the bailout. It doesn't matter whether the government's like, that's not right. And it's right. It's like, in the short term, they're right, even though it's obviously a nonsense concept in the future because market correction should be a thing. But you get the premise of it. It smacks of a bit of that to me as well. As though someone.
I agree. I think for many years, actually, ESL has been too big to fail. That they are that company. I've said it many times. It's not that I co-sign all the
too big as well.
Yeah, it's not that I co-sign all the heinous shit that they do. But it's just that. In reality, a world where if ESL were penalized to the harshest degree for all the shit they did to the point where they went under, esports has got problems. I mean, they're so woven into the fabric that you can't let ESL. Yeah, totally. Like other leagues come and go. ESL's like 20 years now deep in the game. It's fucking insane. How essential they sort of are to the esports ecosystem. So yeah, I could see it being a little bit of that, but I also think as well it's sort of probably a tacit acknowledgement that listen, we're going to get back to basics. We know what works. We can see the numbers. We can see the metrics. We're not going to go crazy. There was so much backslapping and bullshit going on with that Overwatch deal. As I said, the reality were Twitch were terrified that Activision Blizzard were going to pull all of their games off their platform. And so, and that was intimated many times in the negotiations. So Twitch gave them a sweet deal. I mean, that's like the bottom line. That's like what went down. I don't care who denies that or says it. That's what happened. Yes. This is a little bit different. This is an acknowledgement that, we've made mistakes in the past. We're not going to throw a ton of money at you, but we finally acknowledge that exclusivity is worth it. And I hope they've made some Skrilla for it. I think this is a very good move for the community. It's a good move for ESL. It's certainly good for DreamHack, who are making a lot of losses. I don't think their tournaments bring great value, but obviously it's the MTG collective deal. So be interesting to see how much money they get off the back of that and where it goes. And obviously, remember, MTG just announced a massive dip in fucking share price. They missed out on a big Chinese streaming deal that was going to give them a ton of money. So the fact that they've got anything coming in right now is going to alleviate a lot of that fear that MTG were looking at. Maybe there wasn't going to be a 2021 from them. Maybe there wasn't going to be a 2022. I had a lot of industry insiders coming up to me saying ESL are in big trouble. ESL are fucked. ESL are going to go under. So anything like this definitely alleviates it. One thing that pissed me off, though, Duncan, was I saw lots of people commenting about this going, they've took it off bloody YouTube. I love YouTube, mate.
You can't beat fans, can you? They're the best. They are the best.
The fucking tantrum everyone had when CSGO was on YouTube was fucking insane. fuck YouTube, YouTube bad, you non-stop. And now, yeah, actually, I realized there were a lot of good features on YouTube. You know, the way you could like rewind like the game as it was live and better quality. In fact, actually, I get more buffering issues on Twitch than with YouTube. Where were you? Where were you on the fucking day one when they went to YouTube? Why couldn't you sensibly and intelligently have just applied some of that thought process then instead of screeching and fucking reeing about a new platform? Like, you're part of the reason why people were like, well, fuck it, we may as well go to Facebook. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. YouTube already have gaming. They've got all these great features. We may as well fucking sell it to a fucking Mixer, a Caffeine, or fucking whoever. You did that, you fucking morons. You did that. And now it's like, oh, I wish we still had YouTube. Fuck off. Cunts, mate. Cunts to a man. But anyway, yeah, I think it's a good deal. And I'm happy to see ESL get a little bit of Skrilla coming in, especially with so much uncertainty going around them at the moment. Hunden retired officially. And there was much weeping in the scene. But it's not the end. He's gone over to Heroic. He's going to be a coach. And as he alluded to in the interview I did also on the Rivalry channel, he may be involved in Valorant at some point in the future. He might be building a Valorant division for Heroic. I don't know. Obviously, we're going to know a little bit more about it as it comes out. But for now, he's going to be slotting into a role that I think is right up his alley, actually. He's going to be dealing with young, developing players, some players that have been around the scene for a while and are just out of shit, like Nico and Cadian in particular. But obviously he gets to work with Borup again, who he's got a great rapport with, Staun, Tezes. I think this is a great move. I think what we saw from his time in Mad Lions was the reality was Hunden couldn't be carried. He was uncarryable in terms of what he did on the server, but clearly a huge instrumental part when it came to tactics, when it came to an understanding of the game, when it came to motivation, and people were willing to make that trade-off. Obviously, with the Asilian move and the winning Flashpoint, it's been proven to be the right decision to drop him. But clearly, this is a guy with a great mind for the game and is somebody that's gonna, has a proven track record of developing Danish talent almost on a conveyor belt basis. It's ridiculous. So I think this is a great pickup by Heroic, especially given that they had all the sort of negative attention, with all that Astralis nonsense and then the slot potentially going and all of that stuff. So welcome, good headlines for them, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. I mean, I thought it was obvious he should be a coach just based on his individual level and the fact he was always going to hit that ceiling where he'd never get past, say, the top 10. So I think coaching's obvious. I'd hope also they're going to include him in essentially like a semi-GM role. If they need a new player, he's involved also with scouting them and stuff, because this is just his strengths. And then the interesting thing for me about this project is there's a couple of angles. One, that he gets to work with Borup again, because Borup under Snappy looked nothing like the Borup that was in Trick, which basically became Mad Lions. So I already hope he can bring him right back again, because he must understand what he needs in the game, how he should be used. And he's definitely a much better player than he showed when he was in Heroic. Then there's the interesting part, and a wrinkle for me that I'm not sure about is the whole angle that Cadian, I think, is back to being an IGL. So Cadian as an IGL is kind of more of like a loose style IGL, because he's just an AWPer, isn't he? So that's not really Hunden's MO. So I want to see how that interaction goes. I want to see who goes which way and who has more influence. And then the last angle to say is the thing that's very exciting is, even though Hunden's worked with a lot of talent in his CSGO career, he has never had as much talent as this. Like, the actual baseline level of skill in this team is pretty legit, actually, because remember, they don't have a low fragging in-game leader. So when you look at it, if in theory their worst players are going to be Cadian and Nico, they're going to be pretty good, actually, in terms of skill. So if Hunden can get any of that to do and get any kind of like a tactical level of competency on board, put it this way, they could be easily better than North immediately. They could be in the mix. They could be like, knocking on the door of the top 10 if things go well. Like, for people who don't know, that Tessus guy, when he was in Copenhagen Flames, he was like clearly the best player in that team. And in fact, you looked at him and you were like, you shouldn't even be at this level, mate. Like, I can see why they gave you a chance in that MSL Optic. Like, you have the skills. So he could be the next player, like in a year and a half from now. So I feel like if you look at the quality of the players he's got, it's not obvious how you fit them together, but there's definitely the potential to do something with them.
One of the stories people have been wanting me to do videos on and talk about has been this Australian match fixing Right, I'm not going to go into it. I know who they are. It's the information's out there if you want to find it. I don't know the ins and outs of the legality of talking about it because it's still an ongoing investigation. All I'm going to say on the podcast is the people who are intimating that it's top level Australian pros, stop with that bullshit. These guys are fucking nobodies. They're nobodies. They're not. This wasn't some systemic corruption at the highest level of Australian Counter-Strike. It's got nothing to do with any of the big organizations out there. This is just a bunch of chances that got caught because they weren't very thorough in what they were doing. And when the details come out, which I imagine will be sometime after September, because that's when the hearing is scheduled for, a lot of people have been, really wanting to push this and sort of make it out to be bigger than it is. This is the type of common or garden match fixing that's going on in every region, by the way. This is nothing outlandish. This is just the norm that when you start going down into tier 2 and tier 3, because of the lack of oversight of the cash betting platforms that we've got now, you could at least see who was making bets on CSGO Lounge. That's the fucking madness. We were actually better off with the skins betting in a way. Now it's all gone underground. And then even if those sites agreed to share information with leagues and ladders and ESIC and people like that, then you've got underground cash betting sites as well that are all done by shady companies that absolutely wouldn't. They don't want people knowing that they're there, just bettors. So it's a fucked up situation, but it is not a big story. It is just business as usual in Counter-Strike until people start taking match fixing a bit more seriously. And you start, by the way, by not offering bets on dog shit meaningless games. You fix the problem tomorrow. If people can't bet on their games, then they can't fucking fix the games and fix the outcomes and make money off that. But for some reason, every betting platform, even the serious ones, you go on the front page like, who the fuck are these teams? If you think those games ain't fixed, you're a fucking moron. Of course they are. Why wouldn't they be? These cunts don't make any salary. So anyway, but yeah, we'll know more about that in September. Then, which story do you want to end on before we go to viewer questions? Do you want to just get the ESL Cologne being online?
Let's do that one. Let's leave the Astralis one to the next one.
What?
Wait, can you back in a second?
Which one? Changing the server.
Is it me again?
No, it's both of us. There we go. We're back.
You back?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to leave the Astralis story for the next podcast? Okay.
Yeah, because it's not going to be that far away, and again, we'll need something to talk about, so we can go deep on that one.
All right, cool. Well, yeah. So the it's been announced today that ESL are going to be having to stop ESL 1 Cologne being a live event, and Melbourne is going to be pushed back a year. So they're not even doing that online. Obviously, this is a huge blow, not just for ESL, but for Counter-Strike in general. Cologne's it is a major every year. It's one of the cornerstones of the scene and the competitive calendar. And unfortunately, it was just rolling around too quick because it was due to happen in July, as it does every year. And they've done what they've had to do, which is unfortunate that it's not going to be a live event. But I will say, I'd rather have, while it's not fit to bear the ESL 1 Cologne name by being online, I will add that I'm glad it's still going ahead in some capacity. I'd rather have an online tournament than no tournament at all, frankly.
Yeah, of course.
So it's something to watch. And honestly, online Counter-Strike, as we've seen from the road to Rio, there's so many ups and downs and upsets. People playing in their fucking bedrooms, not giving a fuck. And crazy things are happening, like Envy beat Team Liquid, madness, and all sorts like that. So it should throw up some interesting results, but ultimately, as the pandemic continues, this is probably the best case scenario that we could have hoped for, I think.
That's actually the angle, by the way, that I was going to come in on. You've sort of stole my thunder on it a little bit, but you didn't say it explicitly, so I'll still get to say it. This is my problem with that move, is when you can't host ESL 1 Cologne, yes, host an online tournament, but why would you call it ESL 1 Cologne? I mean, it's an intimate, they might, right? If you're not in Cologne, you're not online, don't do it. For a start off, I don't want there to be a year where it's wow, fucking Furia won ESL 1 Cologne. Yeah, but that was the year where it was online. Just call it the ESL Online fucking Autumn Masters or Summer Masters, whatever you want to call it. Pick a different name like that. But do it so that it's it almost is a one-off specific tournament. It doesn't connect to history in any way, because it's just going to be awkward if it really is called ESL 1 Cologne and then it's just an online tournament.
Yeah, and I'll just say to the people in the chat saying that I've got it wrong. You've done it again, chat. You've done it again. You haven't done your homework and you're correcting people. The ultimate form of mental illness is to be wrong and correct people believing you can't possibly be wrong. It plays into so many delusions and psychopathies. It's unbelievable. I will read you what they said in the release. It says here that this is from HLTV's website. This year's ESL 1 Cologne will be transformed into a broadcasted tournament without a live audience, which will take place on August 21st to 30th. The final tournament details are yet to be announced. The ESL state they are looking to find, quote, a solution that is best and safest for players, coaches, employees, and talent, not revealing whether the event will feature teams competing in a LAN environment, such as Katowice, or fully online, like for the ESL Pro League Season 11. You guys are fucking stupid.
What that's saying, Richard, is it's definitely online.
Yeah, they're definitely doing it in a LAN environment, 100%. For fuck's sake, guys, like, don't you understand? Like, don't you get it? Don't come and fucking just go read, right? So yeah, you know, like I say, I think it's the right decision to make, and hopefully by funnily enough, by August, September, I think we're gonna have a much rosier picture. The way things are going. Hopefully. We'll leave the Astralis one. We'll get into the viewer questions. So let's do it. ReykjavikOnSteam asks, if Valve can seemingly just 180 on previous rulings for banter, why can't we get Steel and Jamppi at the major? Unlike MIBR, Jamppi makes watching ENCE bearable again. So a couple of things there. I mean, we talked about it at length last podcast, so I won't hammer the point. But yeah, Jamppi going to ENCE appears to have given them a shot in the arm. They're getting some good results, all tempered by the fact that it's online Counter-Strike. But his level of performance is very good. But then again, there was never any doubt that it was going to be very good. I mean, the kid is a legit player that, for reasons I can't understand, is having his career completely ruined, predicated on an allegation, an intimation, really, of cheating that we haven't, that there is no evidence for. There's not a single dodgy clip. There's not a single like busted video. There's not anybody who even claims anecdotally that he hacked against him. There's no former teammates or friends. He doesn't have any ties to any form of cheating, yet we're supposed to believe that this kid was cheating at age 13 in the game because his friend has access to an account that he purchased. It's one of the most ridiculous miscarriages of justice in all of esports that he's banned from major competition, but he's going to do very well at ENCE, and ENCE are better for having him.
Yeah, of course.
Jyse, which region or country would you push for the next major? Tough one. I'm trying to think, because
I always just go with Denmark because we never had one.
Yeah, we never had a major in Denmark. I was going to think about them, but after the Astralis fans and their one chant, I'm not doing it. I'm not putting myself through Odense again. We've never had the sick major in like Los Angeles or Hollywood or something like that. We've never had that. We've never had like the best that the West Coast has to offer in a major. I think that's something to think about. America's a pretty big country. I would also say, I know politically it could never happen, but Moscow would be a great one for a major. We've had Russian companies do majors and CIS region companies do majors, but you know, the CIS region has given so much to FPS games in general and Counter-Strike. They definitely deserve that recognition, and I don't give a fuck about all this nonsense about they rigged an election that definitely didn't happen. I can't be bothered with any of that nonsense as a reason for it. You know, we've the unfortunate political reality is we've been denied a lot of great events in Russia, you know, and that doesn't help the fans over there that give so much to the sport. So it'd be great if there was a way to do it, but you know, that's the world we live in. So AliceTheAlchemist, hey Rich, is there a secret as to how you plan out which new stories get selected for the Richard Lewis show, and how do you decide the themes of the show? So what I do is, when I'm doing my podcast, I get all of the stories, you know, that I've collated. Like I've got a certain subreddits. I'm following the news anyway. I lay them all out, and then I look for like themes and narrative strands that connect them. So if we get like lots of news about seagulls being mentally ill and pecking people's eyes out, you know, then okay, we've got a seagull segment. How can I segue from seagulls? Oh well, look, there was this flock of crows, you know, ate the cat, right? So we go there, and then cats, and then pets, and then So I'm always looking for like thematic stuff. And that's what I mean. The reason we don't do the podcast so much is that honestly, it's a lot of work for to get the show to the quality I want, and then I have to hit Sam up with an 8-hour time difference and be right. Here's a show. I need you to just react to all of this stuff that I've put out. It's just better to sort of just stream and talk than actually plan. But when I get back to the UK, which 7-8 weeks away now, we'll probably do a regular podcast. We might even get Sam up in the house and get Sam Cam back on the go. Who knows? Ben DeCourt. Yeah, with masks, practicing social distancing, absolutely. Mate, I socially distance from you anyway because you're fucking humming. Ben DeCourt, a new one. Have there been any developments on the implementation of pay-per-view broadcasting rights in CSGO?
Not as far as I know.
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't even heard anyone who's planning to do pay-per-view. It just feels like it's an impossible, you can't land it,
Yeah, I think as well, though, like I've said it many times, I think pay-per-view is something that, like, I just want to see someone take the plunge with it now. And just once you rip that Band-Aid off, there's no going back. And people go, well, Richard, you must be against that. Broadcasters are getting shafted. Let's just be real. Broadcasters get shafted with it. And they don't make a lot of money, and they're reliant on sponsors, and they don't have their own revenue streams. I also don't like sponsors being able to dictate broadcast content, which if you're not reliant on sponsors, you get to move away from that. So pay-per-view gives you an inherent revenue stream that you have complete dominion over. And also it would become a new metric in the industry. Like we sold X, think about the UFC. They judge a successful show not on how good the fights were or whatever, but actually how many pay-per-views it shifted.
Sure.
SunMaidRaisins, do you watch horse racing much? Never have. You?
I mean, if he doesn't know, in the UK, that's either the thing you do if you're a gambling addict or you're upper class. And we're neither, so I don't think I've ever even been in a horse racing track.
Now, dogs. I love a fucking dog race. I go down, in Birmingham, go down the track there and sit around drinking cheap fucking whiskey and beer and fucking throwing my money away watching dogs run around in circles. The thing with horse racing is it never grabbed me. Same reason like car racing never got me. I don't like racing in general. I'm kind of tapped out after the 100 meters. Like seeing people run really fast, I can understand that. Seeing cars go around, they're built to go fast. Who gives a fuck? That's one of the reasons that me and Sadikist never quite fully connected. He loves that shit. And same with Red Eye. Like I'll be talking about something and Red Eye will go, yeah, it's like that guy in Formula One, isn't it? I'll be like, mate, I don't know. I've got no frame of reference here. It's just cars. Transformers. That's sick. But fucking Formula One, I don't care about Murray Walker. He's not even dead, is he? Whatever.
I think he is, isn't he?
No, this is the thing. I'm convinced Murray Walker's still trucking. He's like Mumra, the ever living.
He's going to be dead, I think.
No, he's alive.
No, he's still alive. He's 96. You see what I mean? Everyone thinks Murray Walker's dead.
Give me a year or two.
Yeah.
That's not a threat on Murray Walker's life, by the way. And now we're also corroborate that. It's just a pithy remark on the fact that the man is old and will one day die.
Give it a few years and I'll get to him. I'll get to him.
In a video game.
ColinPennie. This is for Thorin. How would you rank the original Team 3D in an all-time ranking of CS teams, and how good they would have been had the CGS not had a hand in breaking up the team?
Right. The problem with that is obviously they had a million different iterations. So if I pick like their best lineup, it wouldn't actually be the one at the end there that you're thinking of with like Shagwan method. It'd be like the old school one with K Sharp and Rambo and all those fuckers, in like 2002 or whatever. So the problem is they were good in their day, but they were very much a team of their time. Like they're not like an all-time great. Like pretty sure I'm doing like a top 20 teams all the time. They're not even going to get on the list. Like half the teams are going to be fucking Swedish anyway, So they were certainly a good team. They're one of the best NA teams. I mean, NA didn't have a lot of success in CS 1.6. It wasn't like where you have the Team Liquids now that can consistently go ham every time. They were more like they would hang around, like, say, third or fourth if they were good. And then if they had a good tournament, maybe they could win it, but it wasn't consistent. So I do think, obviously, they could have done something if CGS hadn't have happened. And we've had the connection between that era and then the end of 1.6, which was completely broken by CGS and basically killed the scene in NA. So I think there's a world in which maybe some of that talent could have done something. They had some amazing individual players. But yeah, I think it's an example of a team that was good, but the further away you are from it, the more people nostalgize it and kind of think it was better than it probably was. You know, it was a good team. It wasn't some god-type team. I'd compare them to like fucking. I mean, I'm trying to think of like a good sports analogy without being unfair. I'd just compare it to like some of the years back in like the 2000s when you had like Liverpool or something. Like they weren't the best team. In fact, they clearly weren't the best team, but they were like a fun team to watch. And they could be third or fourth. They could give you a good show, but they weren't the best. So they wouldn't like, you wouldn't rank some team from like 2006 Liverpool as like top 50 teams to ever play football. It's like, no, they wouldn't even make the list, would they?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it's one of those orgs that it gets a lot of like clout and a lot of positive attention, not because it ever had a truly great Counter-Strike lineup, but because the alumni is insane. Like if you look at, and I know I've said alumni 3 times on this podcast, but when you look through all the people, when you look through all the talent that came through, like you just did an interview with Dominator, but obviously like you got Shagwa in there, you got Rambo in there, Morto, Volcano, K-Sharp, Method. Like
these
all
are
of these
like billboard names, by the way, like marquee names.
And of course the Bears was in there as well.
Yeah,
shouldn't forget that. So when you look at all of those names, and then they were also inducted into the Hall of Fame because of what they did in 2005, wasn't it? When they won the World Cyber Games.
They won 2 WCG medals. So because obviously it's hard to even win one. If you ever win multiple ones, you get to be in like the Hall of Fame there. When it used to mean something, of course, means fuck all now.
Yeah, and well, yeah, obviously, but I'll also add as well. I mean, that entire tournament, the 2005 Singapore one, is one of the most bungled and botched tournaments of all time. 1.6 for the qualifiers, Counter-Strike Source for the finals, like the whole, so much bullshit going on. Online games, some like all sorts of nonsense. So it's not an accolade, really. And yeah, I agree with you. I think Team 3D are one of those teams that's like they just had so many sick players play for them. In your mind, you put them all together and you make the super team. You make the Voltron. But the reality is they never had that lineup. Okay, we're coming to the last few now. Jdubs. After watching the rise and fall of Grand Slam Liquid, Mouse Sports more recently, Astrala's trying to play 8v5 is the only way they can win a game. How much do you think confidence impacts on results in CSGO? Is it more or less of a factor in CSGO than in other major sports?
I would say probably more in CSGO, because one of the things about CSGO that I find very, very unusual is there is no physical metric you can measure that can tell you how good you will be at CS, even in terms of like aiming, as far as I can tell. There's like, we don't put it this way, nobody ever has even dreamt up the idea of a combine for CS. Yet in theory, we would all assume, right? Well, surely like reaction time probably should figure in, and maybe like how consistently you could track something, but somehow that doesn't translate to the game. Like it just doesn't matter in that regard. So I would just say,
sorry, go on.
So as a result, since I always felt like a lot of the physical side of CS is very almost ethereal, you can't quite nail it down. I think confidence does play a large role in that respect, because you can sometimes be someone not as good, but you really believe in yourself, and somehow that allows you to almost even the odds with someone who's much better, but they're the person who's riddled with insecurity and don't know what's going on. So I think in that sense, it is a big factor.
Well, they did a combine at the CGS. And they did measure reaction times, and they also had this thing famously where the GMs could call you in for games and just make you play, but they could also like put in mad stipulations like handicaps and stuff like this. So they were doing all these like insane attempts to sort of make it like the NFL, where you go and you look at the collegiate athletes. But much like you see in baseball, much like you see in the NFL, there are these intangibles. Now, when you start talking about a sport that exists in a digital space, I think the intangibles become much broader and much more important. And confidence, and not just confidence, but honestly, like social skills, because of the sheer amount of time, like in NFL, like or NBA, you're traveling a lot together, sure, and you do that in esports, but you're definitely not hanging out for 8 hours a fucking day online. So you lack body language. So if there's someone that you actually don't get along with, and they're just in your ear for fucking 8 hours a day, it's gonna fucking wear you down. It's gonna make you snap. You have to have a really strong mindset for people's bullshit when you're in an esports team, perhaps more so than any other sports out there. And that's one of the reasons why You see a lot of these teams break apart, especially when they get a modicum of success. People's egos start coming out. People want new roles. People are like, this is good, but it's not quite good enough. Or second place, like, we need to change this so we can get first. I'm not doing second again. And then when you like hyper analyze everything, because, you know, 8 hours a day, 8 hours a day, 8 hours a day, yeah, people fucking snap and lose their minds. So it's not just confidence, it's just mental fortitude in general. It's just mental fortitude, like the will to keep doing something that works, even if it's to your detriment. Final question for you, Duncan. Sigo, why do orgs like TSM struggle to be somewhat honest and make up for their mistakes instead of deflect and lie? Would it not just be better for PR to be honest, at least?
I mean, the short version would be, it would be the same as asking, like, why doesn't Nickel and IEM just play by the rules and do everything above board and just try to legit compete with all his competitors? Because he knows he wouldn't win if he did that, or he knows it'd be a lot harder. So essentially, if you are essentially on some level morally compromised, corrupt, or you just don't have that essential element to your person, that you don't do things just because they're wrong, then you do whatever you want at any point in time to succeed in every possible scenario. So what I would say is they're an example of a company who kind of nailed it at the beginning. They just won't take an L. And if you keep giving them an L, they'll just keep doubling and tripling down and quadrupling down. Eventually, they'll change the definition of what a fucking L is. Like, they're ridiculous in that sense. So as mad as it sounds, I even said this in my video, but the reason they did all this stuff to me is because it works when you do it to other people. The other people, you haven't heard their stories because it worked. They were silenced, they were blackmailed, they were fired, they were all sorts of shit. So as a result, like, I'm just one of the few people who, I've always said this, I have this element to my character where it's like, if a massive guy came and punched me in my face right in the jaw, I wouldn't go, bloody hell, he's massive. Oh, sorry, how can I get away? I would just go, right, this is brilliant. I'm going to get my head smashed in, but I'm just going to fucking make sure this massive guy gets some shots on his fucking chin because he's just done that to me. So whether he wins or not, he might batter the fuck out of me. I'll eye gouge him, I'll fucking rip his nuts off. I'll do whatever it takes. Like, I'll just make sure he knows that at the end, even if he wins, he'll regret on some level that he fucked with me. That's all I'll be able to do, and that's all I will do.
Yeah, no. I've got the exact same mindset. But yeah, and just to add to that as well, the reason, look, this is not an industry that's built for the truth. This is an industry built on...
you get penalised if you tell the truth sometimes.
Yeah, this is an industry that is built on lies, deceit, right at its core, right from its inception. We've always been lying about being bigger than what we are. We're always lying about contracts and promises and that big sponsor that's just round the corner. It is an industry that if we actually went down to the foundations, and yeah, we're 2 decades in now, right? So you can't remember the rotten foundations that we built this glorious, wonderful palace on. But those foundations are shaky and full of shit, and there are so many skeletons and bodies under that fucking floorboard that if you start digging and start dredging up, you're going to realize that fucking hell, we're at risk here. This is like not a safe building to be in. So the reason that those companies will never tell the truth is that they can't function in a truthful environment. Like, I'm not saying, obviously every other business is like that, you know, financial industry, media, you know, yeah, I get it, right? But like, the point is, this is a young industry, and there are people in it who want to tell the truth and want to build it the right way, want to steer that ship. They never get that power. They never get that influence. So it's your TSMs and all your cuntish orgs that basically get to dictate the great narrative of esports, which is how you end up with absurd situations like Reginald sat down in a fucking meeting with ESL going, right, but what has ESL ever done for esports? Thinking TSM is the be-all and fucking end-all. That's the world that they want, where it's just about them and how big a portion of the fucking cake they get to eat. Right, there you go. I'll let you get out now, Duncan. I can see you're getting a bit sleepy. Is it late where you are? Like, is it midnight?
No, I've just been up all day, so.
All right.
I'm a bit tired.
Been on that fucking yayo.
No, it's the opposite. I haven't gone as mad on the caffeine. I've been trying to ease it back a bit.
The caffeine.
Exactly.
The caffeine.
The old,
Good one. Yeah, the old
Colombian
coffee.
marching powder, yeah.
Yeah. We definitely don't do that in a video game. So anyway, we'll wrap up the show. So all that remains to be said is a big shout out to obviously the sponsor. Go to reykjavik.com/RLS, support them because they support us, and of course our patrons. I brought the show back from the dead. Our $100 patrons: Jerky's Minion, Alice the Alchemist, Madams, ReykjavikOnSteam, and our $50 patrons: Benakagi Assassin, Brent DeCourt, Butt Pounder 420, Carve, ColinPennie, Cathal, Flacksmith, Jdubs, Jyse, Lipscomb Davis, Madsen, Marcus Kumpar, Miss Alcoholic, Sad Sawar, Sigo, SunMaidRaisins, TC Owens, Tobias Bernasconi, Watch Doge, and Zinged. Good to see some new names in there, especially during these tough times. Thank you for your support. And we'll be back next week with another episode of By the Numbers. Until then, make sure you take care of yourselves. Peace.